Hey everybody and welcome for episode 200 of the Dollar Shave Club. We finally made it. Me and Rob.
We
200
did it.
episodes.
200.
Do you have any favorite moments from the 200 episodes that you can think of off the top of your head now that I'm putting you on the spot?
Yeah, that's very
Whenever
difficult. I mean, there's been 200 episodes over the course of like 2 years now, so
I'm going to say the ones where Cam was on are my favorites.
those are pretty good. Yeah, those are pretty good.
The one where we had the allegiance that lasted through all things.
was...
Mostly just because we talked about that last time, so it's fresh in my mind.
There's been a lot of memes created out of the Magic series as well.
Oh, Google back is huge.
Yeah, Google. Well, see, I was trying not to, say Google back because I mean we've had memes from way before then.
Memes are actually a cultural touchstone. I don't know if you knew.
That's true. They touch stones culturally, and that's important. You're playing a red deck?
Yeah, I change it around sometimes to be new.
All right.
Unlike you.
Yeah, no, I stick to goblins, baby.
You go like 100 straight episodes using the same deck.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I think 2014 or 2015 rather was the longest of any of them that we played.
You know what? You might be right. Yeah.
I think we did like.
Because we came in halfway through 2013.
Yeah, and then we just went for the 2014, which was kind of short, and we just stuck with this one.
Comparatively, yeah. Anyway, because the
they were on their game. They released this one like in the proper cycle. The next one has been a little bit off. By proper cycle, I mean just fairly quickly.
Yeah, but hey, Origins soon, so that's cool. Potentially, hopefully, I hope so. I'd be into it if it is good.
I just hope it lets us make decks out of 4th edition like I always want.
Yeah, I just want a lot of goblins. Just give me a lot of goblins and I'll be happy. I'll have a new goblin deck every week with new goblins in it, doing new goblin things. Be good.
I mean, Origins is just another paper set, right? That's the whole point. So it's just going to be whatever's in that set.
I want a white-red goblin deck.
I mean, I have a white-red deck right here.
Yeah, but I want a white-red goblin deck. That's what I want, because that's what I used to roll back in the day. Is I used to do a white-red goblin deck.
You play by their rules.
Yeah, basically. Oh, what are you doing here? You shocked me. That's shocking.
Had enough of your shit. Time to shock you into submission.
That's very shocking
Shock
of you
the
to
monkey.
do that. Don't shock the monkey. The monkey doesn't want to be shocked. He wants to be shacked. Like put in a shack.
The monkey shack?
Yeah, monkeys love shacks.
Is it the love shack?
I mean, it's a love shack, baby love shack, so, there is that going on.
I love Shaq.
Yeah,
Seems like a nice guy.
He's a cool dude, what can I say?
You think he's ever been in a shack and he's like, man, I'm shacking a shack right now?
Probably, yeah, I'm sure all the time.
He could shack up with a lady inside of a shack, so he'd be shacking up with a lady in a shack?
You could do that, yeah.
Yeah, or he could just Google back, whatever.
He could Google back, yeah. There's another aspect of his life that, we haven't really considered towards, Shaq's life shack. He lives in a life shack. Did you know that?
Life shack, baby, life shack. We already kind of hit that joke, so it just kind of went back around, glanced at it a little
bit. We Google
bit.
back to it, so that's the important thing. Dick butts. My cards suck ass.
Good. Exactly what I want to hear.
Yeah. Oh, you got a rock slider.
Yep. My chat has just rated us just
Apparently, yeah. He elements the owls.
He elements the owls.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying he's lamenting the owls, but no. So I've been watching Northernlion play some Fallout New Vegas. Kind of made me want to try out modding the shit out of it.
Yeah, no, I watched a little bit of that when he was streaming it, and it made me kind of want to try out New Vegas, honestly, because I remember Fallout 3 being awesome.
Yeah, I played through Vegas. It's just like didn't grab me the same way. There's something about the location. It's like you couldn't have picked a more boring place to have a game. It's a desert.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a desert in a wasteland, so it's like nothing really changed. I mean, war always changes or doesn't change, but that setting didn't really change after the Fallout.
Changes.
It's just the roads got shittier is really all that happened. And, like, they tacked up that metal sheet everywhere for some reason. Because I guess when you get into the Fallout situation like that, you gotta get metal sheeting. Well, what that really helps.
I don't know exactly what to do.
Die.
I don't really want to die, though. I'm just gonna do this.
Oh, okay. That's not what I thought you were gonna do.
Yeah. I had a couple of options that I didn't necessarily want to go through. It was a little bit not great in the situations of life situations.
Now we're just gonna kind of ride that storm out.
Okay, all right, we got an Ohms race here. Oh, there's an old meme. Ohms
yeah,
race.
I mean that meme kind of died with Ohm, didn't it? Like he just
did,
stopped being on the show, and then the Ohms race died.
Yeah, that does tend to happen sometimes.
It's all right. I'll kiss the ring in the end.
Yeah, that's true.
What's this? Oh, the quest for the Goblin Lord.
Goblin Lord's quest.
Have they ever made a game where you get to be a goblin and go on a quest to do goblin things?
All the time.
It seems like an RPG thing that would be like, oh look, it's a wacky spin-off. Why do you keep doing shit to my creatures? You should be out of mana by now.
This deck is all about low-cost mana things. So that's the main goal. Alright.
Yeah, so I can't block those either.
I mean, you can.
Well, I guess I should have asked the question, do I get the +1 before or after it dies?
I don't know. I think you do get it before.
So I could have blocked it and it would have lived.
I think
that's the
so,
case.
Yes.
Alright, well, I'm fucked on land, so I guess I'm just gonna lose. Great!
That's why I demolished your land.
Epic 200 episodes.
Just demolished your land so that would happen. That very thing. Okay, that's intriguing. Alright. Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna risk it because you're probably just wrong, and I'm just gonna lose my good creature.
It's an excellent point. I could definitely be wrong.
If anything, we've demonstrated in this 200 episodes that we don't know shit about magic.
Yeah, we've learned nothing over the course of the series, basically. There's your white.
Let's go this way first.
Senor Whitey. Oh, lone missionary, gain 4 life. Disaster. Love snack, baby love snack. That's not great.
You know what'd be sweet is when you kill a card, if it just like, if the floor opened up like it does when we attack, and you just slide the card into the gaping chasm, and you see it burning up as it falls.
The gaping chasm of my love.
I guess that would be if the card gets like exiled or something, can't come back from very easily. It'd also be sweet if there was like cards that could remove cards from your deck permanently, right?
So
and then like you can never have them back ever. Wait. That one? Yeah.
Sure.
There's a lot of clicking going on.
Yeah, I was clicking the continue button. Why did you get 4? Oh, because the 2 cards died.
Yeah.
Oh no. I forgot about that aspect of it.
Oh, fucking hell. Come on, give me some shit.
I want to land right now, personally.
Alright. Gotta go that way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I used to use this deck all the time. I guess you don't remember it very well.
No. Yeah, no, not at all. I haven't seen it in a long time, probably.
You've got about 4 decks in total.
Starting to become a problem. The question I have is...
You're not going to ask that question because I'm going to know something based on that.
Yeah, I don't... Yeah, I don't... Yeah.
Protection from white.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and haste. Of course it has haste.
Yeah, it's kind of the haste. It's a storm breather. He breathes storms. Breathes up a storm. I've been fearful of your rock slide elemental since you played it, and I have not effectively dealt with it.
This not land is really fucking me over hard right now.
I'm glad I demolished that land. That's me snapping in happiness.
Even if you didn't, I still would need 1 more to do what I need to do.
Ah, okay. So now you need 2 more.
Yeah.
That gives me at least 2 turns. Hopefully.
How many turns do I have?
Exactly 2.
It's so hard to decide here which one I want to use.
I'm afraid. My cards are garbage. Ordeal of Heliod. Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's kind of a win-win for me.
Yeah.
Actually, I gotta do this.
Okay.
Wait, let's leave 1. Because it doesn't matter. So you're gonna do the 4 and the 4, so whether or not I have the 1 extra damage or not.
Oh, why did it automatically sacrifice? Oh, because of the because it already had the counters.
Oh, I didn't realize it worked like that. I thought the counters counted separately. Counters are generic, though.
I didn't realize it worked like that either. But you
Alright.
got the 10 life.
Game fucked me again on another technicality.
Well, I mean, you did gain the 10 life, so...
Right.
Got that going for you.
Well, I guess it didn't actually fuck me then. Never mind.
Yeah.
That actually seemed like a great play if I wouldn't have just opened my mouth. So the thing you don't really think about is the interaction between multiple counter-creating cards.
Yeah, yeah. That's true.
Okay. You're really gonna do that, huh?
Yeah, I feel like just pumping
That's actually helping me.
Well, yes, but pumping the damage into you is also helping me because...
9.
Hopefully, it will slow down your killing potential on me. So you
what are you gonna do when I go all in with a 7/7 on you?
Well, that...
You're gonna block it.
Yeah, that's essentially the plan, the strategy.
Alright, so this was a pretty obvious win for you. Now it's kind of evening out a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's pretty even now. I mean, I think you have the... If there was like some sort of a power bar that split between us, it's favoring you now.
Maybe.
I think so.
Oh, god damn it.
I need something really good right now.
It's such good damage potential, I just need a little more stuff.
Yeah.
I want you.
Okay.
And then we're gonna go and hit you with this.
Okay.
Fuck. I think I just could have won just now.
Oh, really?
If I would have been not an idiot and realized that... God damn it. Oh, I'm so stupid. I didn't realize I had so much damage on you already.
Yeah, I have only 10 life. Now 3. That's okay. I don't think I can win this turn anymore because of the play you just made. Yeah. Well.
Have I finally discovered a deck that can somewhat counter Rob's shitty goblin deck?
Yeah, I don't think I can. I don't think I can kill you. If you had attacked with your 1/1 as well, I would have actually had enough damage to kill you. But now I don't.
I couldn't risk that. I knew you might.
Yeah.
You got enough land here to do weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely could have killed you last turn if I would have just not been an idiot, though.
Yeah, I probably should have killed the rock slide instead of the two-headed Cerebrus.
I couldn't believe you didn't.
Well, because the issue was the Cerberus, I couldn't get past it, so you would have just eaten through my creatures, so I wouldn't get any damage on you. And then
Yeah, you traded off short term versus long term. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And I was hoping that with my low land that I would get more things to get that going, but unfortunately that did not happen. So I'll just do as much damage to you as I possibly can in this instance. Wait! Oh god, no, never mind! I wouldn't have been able to kill you. Apparently when you exile something, it doesn't get its effect, is what I'm learning.
Oh yeah, it's just like gone.
Huh. Alright.
It's like vaporized.
Damn. Never mind. It's a bad combo then. I thought I would have been able to get the extra damage on you. Oh well. I took you down to 5.
Oh, there's that last one.
I took you down to 5, and you had 14 added life. So I feel pretty good. Overall, I think. Angelic Edict. Oh no, you've exiled. You're an exiler.
Wanted to get rid of that.
Yeah.
I had a Bolt of Keranos, which is 3 damage to target player. So
oh, right, yeah.
If I would have just not tapped out, I could have just played that and won.
Oh, really? That's funny. Yeah.
I just didn't look at your health and do the math. And I was like, well, I'm just, oh, 7 and 10. There's 3. Oh, fuck.
That's always the, like, whenever I'm playing Hearthstone, it's so... I'm always, like, terrified that I'm gonna miss, like, a lethal opportunity.
Like that, yeah.
Luckily, I think in this game you don't get punished as much for missing lethal.
Well, if you're fighting someone who knows what they're doing, you certainly do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I you know, I shouldn't really talk about the meta of this game, but I've found in playing this game with, like, in the series that if you miss lethal, it's not as big of a deal as in Hearthstone because, like, 1 or 2 cards, because, like, board control is so important in that game. Compared to this game?
Yeah.
That,
I mean, ultimately, board control is why we make these videos, so people that have nothing left to do can listen to us talk.
Yep. We can control
your boredness.
Yeah, we can remove it, hopefully.
I haven't won 100 multiplayer duels in all this time.
Really? I don't know. I wonder...
There's a persona that unlocks at 100 wins, and... Oh, there's, like, a lot of them that unlock.
Let's see.
Including my one from 2014.
I have 12 of 35 achievements. How many do you have?
I'm looking at personas right now. Hang on.
Okay.
I have 14 of 35 achievements.
Oh, you have 14. I only have 12.
There's 777 out of 1,235 cards unlocked.
Alright.
Actually, a little surprised there's that many cards. And I have 1 title out of 10.
I have Death from Above. Deal 20 damage to a single opponent in a single duel using creatures with flying. So I'm gonna bet that I did 20 damage with creatures with flying against Austin's, like, infinite life deck.
Right.
Apparently I gained 20 life in a single duel. Cast the same spell 5 times in a single duel. I wonder what that was.
Yeah, just cast through most of your deck, then recycle it all and do it again.
Yeah, I guess. Sacrifice a creature you don't own.
I bet Austin has, like, 100% completion in this game. That motherfucker. It's alright, soon he'll see. We'll just be playing Rocket League. You won't have any idea what hit him.
Exactly, we're gonna make, you know, Rocket League The Gathering. They should make a Rocket League card game. I'll play it.
And a MOBA, of course.
Yeah.
I'm trying to shoehorn that in from the beginning.
I thought you were gonna say Anima.
Yeah, you know, a MOBA, an enema MOBA.
That would be a great MOBA idea, honestly.
The creeps slowly work their way up your ass, and you gotta flush them out.
Man, I think they've stopped now. I think they're done making actual MOBAs, and now they're just doing. I think the turnover rate, like the learning, has gone
Reached
up
peak
in
saturation.
the games industry, because I remember with MMOs, I mean, they've been doing that shit for years. I mean, I think the most recent example of like, you know, hey, we're gonna make an MMO, let's make it just World of Warcraft, was Old Republic, and that was only what, like 3 years ago. So, but with MOBAs, I think they're done making straight up traditional MOBAs. Now they're trying to make MOBA-infused gameplay in other game types.
Well, they're doing the crossover because they're like, hey, the MOBA market's saturated enough. We've got to hit the TF2 market and the Dota market at the same time.
Right, yeah.
Hence Battlecry.
Yeah,
The game we talk
yeah.
about the most, that we respect the least, and have no idea what we're talking about.
Well, no, there's a couple that actually look pretty cool. Have like these MOBA infused game modes. Like there's you know, Blizzard's Overwatch. That does seem pretty fun. There's Gigantic, which is coming out. That looks pretty fun.
But have you
There's the
noticed these are all going to
aforementioned
hit around the same time?
Yeah.
So it's going to be completely from nothing to 100, and we're going to not want any of it.
The question is, though, like, in that space of, like, MOBA-infused gameplay, is there going to be a one king of it all? Because I actually don't think there is. Because
No,
the thing is,
they're all going to be kind of a mess.
I think all of them are going to be fun, and they're going to be played for a while, but I don't think any of them have any kind of esports potential. Maybe Gigantic does. I mean, from what I've seen of that game, there is some depth to its mechanics. So, I mean, I'm certain every single one of them is going to try to be an esport, at least. Especially Overwatch. They're going to have, like, you know, Overwatch finals at BlizzCon, I'm sure. But, you know.
I think it's like your DAO. Like, if you chase your DAO, you're not going to attain the potential of reaching it. You need to just let this stuff occur organically, right? If you come in with the mindset of, we're going to be an esports winning MOBA game, and we're going to be on all the major circuits, and people are going to play tournaments about us, we're going to have huge prize pools, everybody's going to be so hyped. Hearing that is all, like, too much for people. You need to just sort of work your way up.
Yeah. Well, or you can be Dota 2 and just make a game from the ground up designed to be an esport.
That's what all these people are doing.
Well, yes and no. I mean, a lot, like, you can look at stuff like Dawngate, where they did try really hard to push that as an esport. But I don't know if it really was designed from the ground up to be one. I never played the game, so I don't know. But like,
I just think it strikes as arrogance to me that when you come out of the gate saying, like, this is what our goal is, we're going to do this, and you're going to support us, and you're going to like it.
yeah.
Like, no, let us decide what we're going to play and what we're going to like enough to just, you know, see if the strategy goes that deep that we care.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, it's... I agree with you, but at the same time, you know, if you're making a certain type of game, you have to consider the future, because you can look at something like, you know, StarCraft 2, or even League of Legends, because, like, League of Legends was not designed from the ground up to be an esport. That was, like, tacked on afterwards, and it, while it is the most popular esport throughout the whole world, I think anyway, the only numbers that we get are Riot's numbers, so, but it is the most popular esport in the whole world, but the thing is, like, it wasn't designed that way, because they still don't have replays available. Their spectator client came out, like 2 years after the game had been released, or something like that. So, I mean, they didn't... And it's hurting them now. It honestly is. Like them not having replays and stuff. I check the League of Legends subreddit sometimes, and people are pretty upset about the fact that they don't have, you know, a replay system and stuff like that. And you can even look at something like StarCraft 2. I mean, they tried a little bit to be designed from the ground up to be an esport. And you know what? They did a good job with what they knew at the time, because they pretty much added in all the features that commentators did with Brood War, like all the overlays that commentators added on top of Brood War so that the viewing experience was better, and they added all that shit. But they didn't support it as much as they should have.
Well, my point is that there's a line in the sand that got drawn at the point where we realized esports is going to be a multi-million-dollar industry, and most of the ones you're citing, StarCraft 2 and League of Legends, they started to get off the ground before that line was drawn, in my opinion. So I think it's people that see the potential of this market now and then pool their resources to try and hit a target, instead of people that saw the potential coming in the future and tried to make something that might go in what they thought was the trajectory it was headed in.
Right, but then, but like I said, I mean, you can look at something like Dota 2, which was designed from the ground up to be an esport, and it's worked out for them.
But they set the benchmark for a lot of people.
Well, I mean, now, yes, but...
and that's what I'm talking about, is now.
Yeah, well, but I mean, at the same time, though, they knew from the beginning that they wanted to support the esports community.
Yeah, they had the vision, their vision won out, and now everyone's catering to try and get into their range.
Right.
Instead of it being the other way. And what I think a lot of people are doing is they're saying, let's just pretend Dota doesn't exist. It exists in a bubble. We're so popular, just like they did with MMOs, we're going to release ours and everyone's going to come clamoring for us because we're so popular and immensely, you know, our vision is transformative.
Right.
And we're going to just define the new era of this world. I think they're unrealistic in saying that.
That's true, but then you also look at something like, you know, like Super Smash, say, where those games are not designed in any way to suit an esport, and especially the past 2 games in the series, I mean, they've struggled to maintain that role as an esport because they're designed so against even the idea of it being an esport. So, I mean, and it's unfortunate because people want to play that game as, you know...
Right, and that's where you start to cross the line of saying, well, people want this, so why don't we now start to build the features in?
Well...
It's the people that come at it from the position of, we don't even have an IP, and we're going to build it around this.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that, like, Melee was basically always an esport once it came out, and it's been for this whole time. It
takes 20 years to realize anything's happening.
That's sort of my point, is it's a kind of loop-around way to, you know, say fuck Nintendo. But... like, yeah, I mean, essentially, like, they should have known since Melee that, hey, this adds longevity to our games. Like, where do you think people are buying, like, people are still buying copies of Smash, Melee, and GameCubes and GameCube controllers and stuff? Like, that's because Melee is still a popular esport. Not as popular as it should be if they supported the process. So...
But they could do worse to support it. I mean, they have organized tournaments now, which
they used to do worse to support it, though. Like, remember there was that whole...
Yelling at them for doing better?
Well, no, I mean, but, like, even just, like, a year ago... it was either a year or 2 years ago when
they wouldn't let it play on Twitch.
Yeah, they wanted to do Melee at EVO, and Nintendo was like, no, you can't do it.
Right, I know, that was a really stupid decision, but they've kind of come around now.
Well, yes and no. I mean, like, that's the thing, right? Is, like, Brawl, or not Brawl, but Smash 4, Sakurai didn't really implement the things that people wanted for it to be, you know, played competitively.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're not actively going out of their own way to sabotage it.
Yeah, I guess.
They're not helping themselves,
so
but they're not making it worse.
So I guess that's like the ultimate, like, Nintendo thing, is like, well, at least Nintendo's not shooting themselves in the foot anymore. So, you know, I guess that's a bonus point to them.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, in their case, it actually is that.
Yeah. Well, it is, actually. But, yeah, no, I mean, they're not actively sabotaging themselves, so at least they're not doing that. So maybe in the future we'll have, you know, an esportsy...
Baby steps.
Yeah, I guess so.
The impossible is possible now. The Xbox One can have backward compatibility. Team Ico made a video game. Final Fantasy VII is being remade. And the world is turned topsy-turvy now, so Nintendo might be the best thing ever to come out, even despite their awful E3.
Cats and dogs, they're getting together and stuff.
They're banging.
Yeah.
On the roof, in the basement, who cares?
I hope Zelda's good. I really want to know what this NX thing is.
No, you gotta wait a year for that. Sorry.
Yeah. And that's only going to be their announcement of whatever it is. So.
Yeah, well, you gotta wait a year to know what it is. That's all we care about, right? It's not like we knew we were gonna get it next year.
You know, the thing is, too, is, in all honesty, everyone has been very cynical about the NX and how they're, like, abandoning the Wii U and stuff like that. But if you look at the I think we have a little bit of recent memory is the only memory syndrome. I'm not great at coining terms, but like the last generation of consoles was 10 years. That is like by far the longest console cycle that we've had over the history of video games, right? So everybody's sort of expecting the console cycle to be that long.
Ryan gave me the same argument.
Well, in reality, every generation before that was only like 5 years, and the Wii U is like 3 years old now. So if they announce it next year, that's 4 years, and it comes out the year after that, that's 5 years. I mean, that's pretty much in line with the rest of history. It's just that we expect these consoles to last a long time just because the last generation was just so damn long.
Yeah, and the way that I would disseminate that argument is to say that we expect that they would support the console all the way through, and for the first 2 years of the Wii U existing, it was always promises, 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 nothing much getting delivered. We start to get to the period where there are now a couple of games, and instead of a big future, we go, oh, and that's the end of the show.
Right.
So whether it's a lot of years or not, we want stuff to happen during those years, and we're also dealing with a console that came out with inferior hardware when it was launched.
Yeah. Though, in fairness...
Not that that always matters. Gotta say that.
Well, not just that, but also, like, the PS4 and the Xbone...
also had inferior hardware.
Right, exactly. Like, that you're only
All
saying
three
they
of them
have...
did, yes.
Yeah, you're only saying they have inferior hardware if you're using the benchmark of the PS4 and Xbone. But if you keep the PC in mind, then they all launched with vastly inferior hardware.
Okay, so if they all have inferior hardware, this one is double as inferior, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It was a generation behind.
Although, I wonder if if Wii U games run at 60. No one ever really talks about it because nobody really cares that much, but I wonder. I wonder if they run at 60. I mean, I know they probably... I think most
I should know the answer to this because it was a big deal in Bayonetta 2, and I don't remember now.
Yeah. It's a good question to ask because, you know, even the PS4 and Xbone, they usually don't run games at 1080p 60 frames per second, right?
Right.
So, I mean, and the Wii U is capable of 1080p, isn't it? So
I don't know. Maybe.
I think
Probably.
it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
But with what?
Well,
I need the damn chart in front of me, so I really shouldn't be talking these numbers without the actual stats.
I have no idea. I'm just saying this is kind of pertinent information that is intriguing to the... Cause
I think what we get into just the potential of things, and we go, hey, look what these guys can do. Why can't you do that?
Right.
It's like, oh, well, they don't want to do that. Why don't they want to do that? And then we start going down this rabbit hole of their intentions.
Nintendo for a long time has not been about, actually pretty much their entire history have not been about third-party support, and they're better with it now than
they hit an all-time high with it on the Wii.
Well,
right?
Yes and no,
then they completely reversed it for the Wii U.
Well, see, yes and no, though, right? Because even though they had some third-party support, it was largely
90% shovelware. I'm just saying they did have it.
That's the thing. It was at the front end of the console's life cycle. They did have some stuff that was like the third parties that people care about, like games made by EA, Activision, Ubisoft, things like that.
Set the bar so low. It's like if you just release a new Pixar movie, you only have to invest like $200,000 to create some shovelware piece of shit game where you waggle the controller and the character jumps up and down.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. There's free marketing potential there.
Yeah. It's, you know.
But I don't know if that's really what you would say is really third-party support. It's like, hey, we developed a platform for you to shill your shit on us. Right?
Yeah.
Marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
People care about that? Maybe not. I just know we had a lot of kids and a lot of parents coming into GameStop going, I don't care what this game is, it's $7.99, I want it.
Right. I mean, hey, you know, think about this too. If the NX is a new console, and I'm right, and like they're like, well, you know what? Let's go back to the old format where console cycles were like 6 years or something, right? Fuck longevity and all that. If they do that, and they do make a console that's more up to date with today's hardware and has more capacity to do other types of things, and maybe they support third party, all that kind of shit, I would have to imagine that Xbone and PS4 are all about that base, firstly, but secondly, are all about keeping the console cycle as long, if not longer, than the last one. Because they would much prefer to keep the if they had their way, they'd have that console going for like 100 years, right? Because then they don't have to incur the hardware costs as much as the initial capital is needed for the R&D and then the production and then the sales for the first like 3 years of losses. So,
but also new hardware is like a massive boost in their presence in media.
That's what I'm saying. Like, take that part away. Like, just if they could get away with it, where people didn't care about like new graphics and new technology, and they could stick with that, they would do that, right? Because it would just be, because you wouldn't incur any of those.
That's
those
just an impossible
costs.
Theoretical, so
right.
why even entertain it?
But what I'm saying is, if Nintendo is on the 6-year or 5-year console cycle again, right, and PS4 and Xbone they want to keep it as long as possible, and they would love to stay for as long as the last generation, if not longer, then maybe Nintendo comes out on top with a new console that is
temporarily until they get stomped again by the next one being on top of them.
Well, but see, that's the thing. By that time, if PS4 and Xbone are content with having like a 10-year life cycle for their console, like I said, if not longer, then by the time those consoles are at the end of their life cycle, Nintendo's NX will have been going strong for like 5 years, and they'll probably be ready to make a new console again anyway.
I think the big element to that, the big variable that's missing, is how well can these run virtual reality?
Right. Yeah.
And if it turns out that it just can't support at a reasonable frame rate, and it starts making people motion sick because it's missing frames, that's going to be a reason for them to really up their game and try to move on to something next.
If they even want to. It depends on whether or not... Like, we still aren't sure if the VR thing is going to be, like, 3D in movies, or it is going to be a legitimately new way to play video games. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
it could
I have
be
seen
that
Microsoft's dipped into the idea of just having you sit in a movie theater while you play Forza, so...
Right, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there's... I actually read an article of an interview with Iwata, Satoru Iwata, and he was very cynical about VR. So, Nintendo
Didn't he also shit on people being so upset at them?
Kinda, yeah.
I thought there was like an interview where he was like, man, I'm really sick of people giving us a hard time. We just want to do what we want to do. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, he felt like, hey, he said something along the lines of like, we tried what the fans want of like supporting third party and it didn't work, so now we're just gonna keep doing what Nintendo does. And it's like, I don't think you ever really did that, Nintendo, but alright. Sure. And then they also kind of shit on VR. And
wouldn't it be in their best interest to shit on VR because they've got their own unique vision?
Right.
Quote unquote.
The thing that they had with VR, this was actually the funniest part of that article, that interview for me, is the thing that he cited as like the main detractor from Nintendo wanting to make VR.
Virtual Boy.
No, is
that would be the funniest.
That would be hilarious. No, they don't.
We did that shit. It didn't work out. Nobody else can.
No, the thing that they shit on is that it's a solo experience, right? Like it's just one person can sit in a room and play a game in that one specific way. Only one person can experience it on a couch with a bunch of friends or something, right?
Right, which is why they made a Wii U tablet that only one person
That's exactly my point.
Fuck
yes,
you,
that's
Iwata.
exactly my fucking point. That's why it was the funniest part of that interview, because it was like, then what the fuck is the Wii U tablet?
It wasn't even like I had to think about that when I said it. It just happened.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't self-aware enough to make that point.
I don't... That was just like, man, you are in another world, another universe, for some reason.
Nintendo universe. A Miiverse, in fact.
So, yeah. But
Yous and me's and we's.
I don't know.
I really like pieces of speech that they can splice together.
They do, yeah. I wonder if the new NX is going to be like a new name, or it's going to stick to the Wii gaming convention. I really hope it doesn't, because that kind of really hurt them when the Wii U came out, because their large audience for the Wii, which, like, one of the main things that was, like, you know, hardcore, quote-unquote hardcore gamers' gripes with the console, and, you know, general population's love of the console, was that everyone knew about it, right? Everybody knew it was a Wii. Yeah, go get a Wii. Your fucking grandma's going out and buying a Wii. But when they came out with the Wii U, those grandmas were like, well, I've got one of those already.
Yeah.
You know?
They had some shitty publicist that's like, man, we really need to leverage the strength of this brand name. So what better way to do it than not change the name? What? So is the next one going to be called the new Wii U? Because they did that with the DS.
In line with their traditional thinking, or you know, in a way, in a form of logic, it does make sense, right? Is like, okay, we've got brand recognition for the Wii.
No, it's terrible logic. I'm not going to grant that one.
Well, no, I can see, I'm just saying, I'll take you down the path of the logic that they use, even though it's wrong, is, okay, we've got lots of brand recognition for the Wii from a lot of people that wouldn't traditionally be called gamers, so...
Why scare them with new scary ideas?
Exactly. Why not make something that they already know, the Wii U,
confuse them.
And instead, that's exactly what happened. Yes, they just got confused, and they were like, well, what the fuck is that? Why do I need that? I just have.
It shows an immense, inability to recognize their audience if they know that they're people who aren't traditional gamers, and yet also they expect them to take this extra step.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you know, you have to consider that the demographics that they reached into for the Wii's audience, the ones that weren't traditional gamers, that aren't educated gamers, and I don't mean that they're uneducated people, I mean that they're
not in line with the industry standards.
They're not paying attention to the gaming world. You know, that's what I mean. Like not educated gamers there.
It's not loaded. We're not saying that you're a bad person if you're not into that. It's up to whatever you do in your life.
Yeah, well, and we're talking about people who probably wouldn't seek out Let's Plays on YouTube anyway, right? So I mean, it's
well, I don't know who those reach at this point, really.
Yeah, you could be right. And who knows? Maybe we're doing a Nintendo thing and we're fucking people over. But anyway,
maybe
with those types of people, they probably think of like a Wii because it was very much like a toy in a lot of ways. They probably think of something like a Wii as like a DVD player or a television where you're not going to replace it unless it breaks. There's no reason to replace it, right? So, like, what's the purpose of replacing it until it's broken? And
it's like that game of Monopoly you got on the shelf. Like, why would you ever get another one?
Yeah, you don't need another one. You can derive your
unless
entertainment
the kids
from
swallowed all the freaking
exactly.
pieces.
It needs to break before you get a new one. So there's not really... So, like, the demographic they hit weren't necessarily, like, loyal customers. You know what I mean? Like, they're not just going to follow around Nintendo. They're just going to buy whatever Wii games that they seem look cool when they walk into the store.
Well, but I think there's a large crossover with people that are enamored with the idea of Mario.
Right.
Just as, like, the symbolism, sort of like how Mickey Mouse represents Disney, Mario represents Nintendo, and I don't think they take it much further than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird trying to analyze this from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't put myself in the position of someone who doesn't know about the industry.
Yeah.
I don't mean that to sound elitist, but, like, I can't not now.
Right. Well, because, you spend your whole time in it.
It's all we do.
Yeah, so... yeah, no, it's hard to take a step back and look at it, or try to look at it objectively. But...
Well, that's why it's fun to make these videos, because people chime in with their own perspectives, and we can kind of crowdsource those opinions.
Mm-hmm. And even in this case, like, say I'm right about how the NX is going, and they're like, all right, let's just go back to the old format where console cycles aren't 10 years long. We have all been, everyone who's, like, criticized the idea of a new console as, like, abandoning the Wii U, if that is their strategy with the NX, then we've kind of been in our own, like, echo chamber bubble of just accepting that the last console cycle, when the sample size is literally, out of the sample size of, I mean, how many consoles have there been? Not counting the hilarious failures in the 80s. Like, there's been at least, like, what, 30, 40 consoles now? Over the course of...
You mean individual, or you mean cycles?
No, I mean individual consoles themselves.
I don't know, probably between 20 and 40.
Yeah.
That are not side projects, I mean, like, the main groupings.
And out of all of those, only 3 of them had a 10-year-long cycle. So...
Right, but that's not
It's a small sample
bringing
size.
in the element of how technology works.
Well, yeah, that's true.
It literally is exponential from one generation to the next. It's doubling.
Yeah. Well, that's the question too, right? Is that can the hardware maintain it like it did for the last decade? Who knows?
I think there is a threshold with which the point of doubling the visual fidelity no longer matters. And I think we've gotten very close to it, but I don't think we're still there quite yet.
Well, here's what I see.
Or maybe we'll always say that. I don't know.
I'm thinking that one of the problems is if PC market share continues to increase as it has been on an upward trend for, like, you know, the past 4 or 5 years, then if the market share keeps increasing and increasing and increasing and doesn't hit a plateau anytime soon, then what that would mean is that developers are going to be developing for PC hardware, not just developing for, you know, the last generation of console hardware. Because that's really what was happening in that 10-year, you know, that decade of last generation, is that the software was largely held back, and the graphical fidelity was largely held back by the aging systems, you know?
Yeah.
So, if enough developers see value in selling games on the PC again, and the market share gets ever increasing, then it's going to be hard for console developers to compete, I think.
But you have to keep in mind, though, that we're talking about a global market.
Yeah. Well, that's
and
true, too.
PC is not representative of that global market. It's mostly North America.
Yes, that is true.
Right? So Nintendo sees a very different picture here. And we can't pretend that we are that entire industry.
No, that's true. I think America makes the most money, but it's not enough that it would...
I'm sure someone's going to call you out on that one.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a crazy thing to
I just
suggest.
don't know, so I'm not going to comment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know either, so, I mean, I'd be interested to know the numbers if anybody does know, but even so, like, it would have to be a monumental, like, valley of difference between other markets for them, and I don't think it's that. I think it would be I think American gaming probably makes marginally more money than other things.
The very fact that From could say, hey, we might not make a PC version of Dark Souls 3,
yeah,
that's enough to make me go, hey, wait a minute.
Right, yeah.
They clearly are seeing something different here, because as far as we're concerned, you may as well not even release it on console for us, most likely.
Yeah.
We'd rather just have it on PC.
I would much rather have it on just PC.
I mean, sure, release it on everything, but, like, if we had to pick one or the other, I think we'd rather all have it on PC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's, again, it's a group within a group within a group, so I don't know.
I mean, there's another consideration, too, is that genres matter as well. Like,
sure.
There are certain genres that just haven't forever, and it, at this point, seems like they never will sell better on PC than they do on consoles in certain scenarios. Like sports, for instance. Like, those have always and probably will always sell better on consoles than on PC. Which is part of the reason that EA has abandoned PC in a lot of ways.
Well, unless you can rebrand the concept of console and PC as being sort of, like, crossed.
That's what I think is... I mean, they tried to do that...
That's the kind of movement I think we're working on right now.
Yes, they tried to do that last cycle. The technology, I don't think, was there yet because of the aging hardware. But now it seems like they really have the ability to kind of do that sort of thing. I mean, with the Fallout 4 mods and the PS4 doing shit like that, and the cross-platform
right, and that's the bridge that allows the traditional console players to then make their way over to PC and realize that it's the same thing, really.
I mean, I'm sure... Well, I don't know.
Like, when you're dealing with the UI of a console, it's not that much more streamlined these days than you freaking install it in Steam and you plug your controller into it. You're doing the same thing.
Do you think Sony, Xbox, Nintendo, I guess don't count Nintendo, but, you know, Sony and Microsoft, like, if the console market wasn't there... Oh man, it's really hard to phrase this in a
Are you saying they would become publishers for PC somehow?
Well, that's my question, is would they prefer to do that? Because like
They
would they
prefer to go wherever
potentially?
the money is. That's
Well,
all.
that's what I'm saying. Is there more money in just? Is there more money in?
Unified architecture? Yes, there is,
They
because they can not have to
they don't
spread it
have
across
to
a
they
bunch
don't
of
have to sell
things.
the hardware, right?
They don't have to
So
sell the hardware, and they don't have to make ports. They just make one product and release it.
that would be my thinking too. Yeah. So then my question is, on top of that, is say this whole crossover thing kind of goes even more spectacularly than anyone could possibly imagine, and like consoles and PC are working hand in hand in tandem.
You're saying this is the end of consoles again?
Do you think that's possible?
I don't think it'll be as successful as we're saying for that to be possible.
No, but I mean, if it was very, very successful, and we could unite audiences like that.
You'd need everybody to be on the same page if that's what they really want to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
and there's so many like corporate relationships and different things depending on these various platforms existing that it would just be unfeasible even if it were the best financial decision.
See, because here's my thinking is
there's contracts, there's licenses, like people can't just break that now.
Like, here's my thinking is like handheld like consoles suffered when mobile gaming became a thing, right? Because and the reason that happened was because people had a phone to play with. Why do they need to buy another basically peripheral to play video games when they can do it on their phone?
Yeah.
Right now, we're coming out with like smart TVs. You got like Roku's, the Google whatever the fuck Drive, the Amazon, urethral sounder and stuff. Like there's all this shit, and those things are getting more and more featureful. That could close up a market a bit on consoles, especially if people consider like at this point maybe people are gonna start considering, hey, I want a strong PC like I want a big TV. You know what I mean? Like people think like, okay, I'm getting a new place. One of the things that I want, what I want to, a goal for me is to have a nice big TV so I can enjoy my entertainment. Maybe that will also move towards, like, I want a nice, strong PC so I can enjoy my entertainment.
But there's also elements, and you almost, like, directly said one of them, stuff like OnLive and streaming services that want to streamline the whole process of console and PC.
Yes, that's true as well.
It's gaming a la carte, right? It's sort of like how
cloud gaming, yeah.
Cable channels are getting decentralized from groups and become available as their own entities now.
Yeah, Sling
so
TV.
too can game properties, right? If they hook up with a box.
Right. That's what I'm saying, yeah. So
get Call of Duty
I'm just saying,
today on this box that has nothing to do with Xbox or PlayStation anymore.
What I'm pointing out is that naming all these things in the next couple of years, it could be a perfect storm of like consoles in general are just obsolete. Which again is like a drastically radical future.
It's so much shit getting thrown at the wall. I have no way of predicting what's going to stick.
It would be very hard to even prophesy something like that, but I'm just saying, like, the percentage chance of anything like that, like I'm saying, happening is like, less than 3%. But I do think it's a possibility.
It's also fragmented, though. I mean, just talking about the cable services, all the TVs have smart TV stuff built into them that is also redundant with these cable boxes.
Well, and then you have things like, I think there's a chance as well that it might move into like a hybridized system. Like, maybe you don't get like a $300 console or something. Maybe Xbox makes a little, USB plug-in thing for your TV or something, or, like the Steam machines.
It's also redundant. The Steam machines are doing that already.
Well, that's what I mean, yeah. But I mean, if the Steam machines are popular and they work the way that people want them to work, I mean, that's.
But all they're doing is taking a PC and putting it in a slightly different form factor, so we don't have to call it a PC.
Yeah,
it's all just a stupid exercise of rebranding the concept of a computer.
Yes and no, though, because what the Steam machine is trying to do, if I would be so bold as to suggest what, you know, Valve's market strategy is here. I think what they're trying to do with the Steam machines is, one, implement a moddable console, which means that it could potentially be upgraded instead of having to buy a new thing.
Like a PC.
Like a PC, yes.
Weird.
And it gives you, the second thing is you get the PC library of games, which is ginormous. And don't even talk about backwards compatibility, because just go to GOG.com, you can play any game that came out in like fucking 1995. So, I mean, the library of PC... Well, yes, but the library...
there might be a lot of bugs.
Even so, the library of PC games is a fucking ocean compared to everything else. And then what you do, like, with that is you hybridize it with a console, so people don't have to feel like they're a nerd or they're buying, like, a way ridiculously overpriced computer to play this huge library of games. So you're hybridizing, you're putting console and PC together by having the PC library and the console's entertainment value, I think. Because that's sort of the thing about consoles, right? Is the one thing that I've heard from console players, people who just stay solely to consoles, is like, I like playing games on my couch. And hey, I totally respect that, and I totally understand that. It's, you know, there is something to be gained from, you know, sitting on your couch with a controller, looking at a TV, playing a video game, as opposed to sitting at a desk with an office chair on a keyboard and mouse, you know?
I totally agree, and I have both set up, and I appreciate the both of them. I'm real tired of sitting in my office chair all day. I totally agree.
And at the same time, like, I have that set up as well because I enjoy it sometimes to just not be in an office chair and just sit on a couch and relax with a video game. But doing that with PCs right now is a little bit more complicated of a process than something as potentially simple as a Steam machine could be, you know?
Well, they have the Steam Link thing, right? That's the thing that's going to allow you to send, I presume, a wireless signal to your TV.
Yes, yeah. Essentially, yeah.
I don't know why you'd want a wireless signal. If you can just hook it up with a long HDMI cable, you should probably just do that, but...
I would prefer that too, but people are
not
afraid
everybody
of cables.
Can drill a hole.
Well, that's the thing, is that people are very afraid of wires. And as a general rule, people really are... Like, and I'm talking about this just from, you know, small anecdotal evidence of my family. Like... If it's not the console thing where it's like, all right, I know I need power, and I know I need to plug in the 3 colored things into the 3 colored holes, easy, I set it up, I'm there. They don't want to fuck around with a PC that has, like, all right, well, how many displays does this graphics card support? You know, there's an HDMI cable, and there's a slightly unmarked HDMI mini, I think, so I would need, like, a splitter or an HDMI. Like, nobody wants to deal with that shit. I don't even want to deal with that shit. But I'm willing to deal with that shit for the comfort and form factor, but if you make that simpler on people, and potentially you can do that with a Steam machine, I'm just saying, you know, that's I think what Valve is trying to do with it.
I think if you could just get Microsoft to get on board and say when you change your damn display that it could send the audio to that display automatically, that's like 90% of the frustration for me.
Yeah, that's
so annoying. You got to change your input outputs with the audio every time, and then when you unplug it, you got to put your headphone back in and then retoggle the audio on. It's like, come on.
Yeah, I've had some of those issues with the...
I'm sure there's BAT files you can execute that do it automatically, or you could make one, but like that's the level where I draw the line. I'm not going to start programming macros so I can change my displays properly.
Yeah, I actually have a thing... I've got a program called Monitor Switcher so that it is easy to do. Like, all I did is set up... All you do on that program is you set up, like, a profile, which takes, like, 5
why can't
seconds.
Windows just have that?
I totally agree. They're another company that's, like, in the past on features that people want, I think.
They're like, man, we really want to revitalize this whole touchscreen idea.
Yeah, like, hey, we want to compete with Apple that has less market share than us. I mean, like, guys, just do your own thing, please. But, you know, whatever.
Why do you think Nintendo is going to go in a new direction, though, when all they've been doing is digging themselves deeper into the hole of amiibos?
Well, I don't think they're going away from something like amiibos. That makes them a lot of money. And it, like I've said many times before, it hits that perfect central Venn diagram of things, of, like, people who like toys and figurines and collectors.
No, I just mean with this console, though. You're not... You're saying it's going to go back to, like, the GameCube.
No, I'm not necessarily saying that. But I am saying that maybe they're going to focus on hardware a little bit more. And...
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Well, I mean, if you make a new console, like, if you look even from Wii to Wii U, the upgrade is pretty substantial. Granted, there's, like, a decade of time in between those, but still, I feel like they would probably focus a little bit harder on hardware, and maybe they don't triple down on motion controls with the new console.
I'm betting you're right. I bet the X in NX stands for cross. I bet it's Nintendo Cross, and it's going to allow you to do the PlayStation TV with your DS.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah.
And then they'll just double down on everything being about the DS, and maybe we'll just kind of mitigate the hardware at all, like the console at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. I don't know.
It'll just kind of like
in that same interview with Iwata, something he clarified about Nintendo's like branching into mobile gaming is he said that their games are not going to be free to play necessarily. They're going to be free to start. That was the wording that he used.
So they start as a demo, and then you reach a point, and it's $3.99 or $7.99. Well, Nintendo,
maybe.
It'll be $44.99.
Yeah, right. We have no idea what they're gonna do, but that could potentially mean microtransactions. That could mean DLC. It could mean paywalls. But it could mean none of that. I don't know. Who knows? But that he said pay to or free to start. That's just the only thing that he said. It's very cryptic. It's like Nintendo, you know.
That seems like a really dangerous ground for Nintendo to get into, where they have this really staunch activist, like, they're set in their ways as far as pricing goes.
Right.
And they have no idea how digital realm works. They don't really want to outprice people. They're just like, well, we're Nintendo. We can do that because we're Nintendo.
Right.
So they'll get into this mindset where they'll start out with this free-to-play thing. They'll realize, hey, let's make it $60. Who cares? They'll pay it, right? And then they'll also just start throwing on add-ons and DLC and, you know, in-app purchases, and I really don't like that.
Yeah. But it's all speculation right now. We don't know. I mean, maybe it'll be a really nice pricing method. I think overall they've been pretty good about their DLC on the Wii U. I mean, they never really did DLC that much for the Wii, but on the stuff that they've done with Wii U, it's been pretty good for the consumer, I think.
Well, their DLC is the amiibos, really.
Well, but I mean, there's also like they release like track packs for Mario Kart 8. They release new characters for Smash, you know, and for the most part they're like reasonably priced, and also they give you a good amount of content. They work very similar to like what one would consider an expansion, rather than the DLC of like, you know, dress up your Barbie. You know what I mean?
They just have the same mentality as Activision with the Call of Duty games, where they never get cheaper ever because they're so confident in their IPs.
Yes.
Which is a very bad pairing with something like mobile.
Yeah, no, I agree.
A market that flies by like incredibly fast.
Well, you know, I think something that they would probably be looking at is how well is Squeenix doing on that front, right? Because Squeenix is doing the same thing on mobile, right? They're releasing their old games for like, you know, AAA prices.
7 times more than mostly everything else on the App Store.
And that is in Japan, so that's the primary thing Nintendo would be concerned with. So they're probably looking very closely at what Squeenix is doing and seeing if that is working for them, and that would probably influence what their strategy is on pricing. So I'm curious about that as well.
Maybe it's not that it'll be a phone. Maybe it's not that it'll be a DS crossover, but it'll be the thing that allows you to play all of your eShop purchases on the go that isn't a DS. Or maybe it lets you play the DS games as well.
I don't know. You know, now I honestly am getting more and more convinced that it might just be an entirely new console.
Okay.
I really am. Because I've been thinking about that a lot, and I thought about, like, you know, the console cycles, and, you know, it could make sense. I mean, if like 5 years into the Wii's lifespan, if Nintendo was like, hey, we're gonna make a new console, no one would have scoffed at that time, right? People would have been like, okay, it's around time.
But it's not even just that it might be a new console, it's what will Nintendo's weird thing be, right? Because they haven't just released a straight-up normal console in ages.
In a long time, yeah.
So what's the twist here? What's the M. Night Shyamalan ending to this story?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I've associated Nintendo and M. Night Shyamalan pretty directly lately. Their endings are always pretty weird.
I would be very hopeful that they decide to go bare bones, like, we're making a gaming console for gamers. But, I don't know. Maybe they will try to hit, like, what the Wii did. Maybe they're going to try to recoup that glory like they did with the Wii, and they think of, like, the Wii U as, like, alright, we made some mistakes with the Wii, we didn't hit the same audience as we did with the Wii, let's do it again, but right this time, in their minds, of how to hit those demographics again. I hope that's not what they're thinking. I hope what they're thinking is the people who have been with us for years, and the reason that we have brand loyalty at all, is because we're Nintendo and we've made, beyond anything else, forget the hardware, forget the innovations in peripherals, we have made good games for a long time, and that's what we need to focus on. I hope that's what they're thinking. I really do. But
Nintendo NX, the console where you buy pins and put them on your body, and the pins are the buttons and you are the controller, so you have to tap all over your body to control the game.
Well, one thing we do know is it won't be supporting VR, since Iwata seems very negative about the idea of VR, so...
They'll have their own eventually if it catches on.
Yeah, maybe in like 15 years.
25 years, roughly.
Yeah, when they're like, oh, okay, right. I remember 10 years ago when VR was first coming out and people got really excited about it and played it a lot. Yeah, that seems right for Nintendo now. Like, that's...
Yeah. Keep it going, just like Microsoft wants that touchscreen thing to really work out.
I really hope Windows 10 is good, because Windows 8, man. That was a monumental
It's been
fuck-up.
the decade of ride the line of whatever corporate decides is the popular idea, and then just be upset until they decide it's not a good idea.
Right, yeah. Oh man, I hope good things. I really want to get back to fiercely defending Nintendo. I hope I get to do that.
That's a bad idea. You should not fiercely defend anything.
Well, yeah. I mean, I fiercely defend Valve a lot of the time. So, I got that.
I'm pretty sure we talked a lot of shit about Valve over the years.
Maybe my definition of fiercely defend is different from a traditional...
Yeah, I think we want to just stay away from the blindly defending thing.
Yes, I don't want to blindly defend anything, but I would love to get back to the days of, like, my youth, where I was like, yo, a new Nintendo game is coming out, I need it in my body right now. And I don't have that anymore.
Like you did with Star Fox.
Yeah, I need...
For a minute.
And, well, before I saw it, I think, where it was like, I still need a new Star Fox game. I do. I really want that. I want to get back to that Star Fox 64 experience, which is still fun to play, by the way. Honestly, like, I think Star Fox is one of those games, too, with me, where Star Fox 64, like, Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, I think I beat those games maybe once a year.
Right.
And I think Star Fox is like that too, where I'll beat Star Fox 64 like once or twice a year.
Yeah, I do that with Super Metroid.
Yeah.
Good thing I do that.
Yeah. Well, hey, you got something on the horizon. They got a new Metroid Prime game coming out, 2, in fact, so...
Oh, that's fantastic news, Rob. Thanks for reminding me about that. Really excited.
I'm glad I'm a big Zelda fanboy. That's all I gotta say, is because Nintendo knows that people want Zelda.
Don't you think there's a point, though, where eventually, if you don't get a return on your idea of what you think is a good idea from this franchise, eventually you just go, hey, you know what? These franchises aren't so special that the mechanics that make them good can't be replicated by indie developers in ways that make them maybe more compelling than I originally understood.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I landed after a while. Not that I still don't love Metroid and Zelda, it's just like,
I think...
what have you given me lately, so...
I think that's the thing about Nintendo is with... most of their major franchises, and I really do mean most, not all, but most of their major franchises, or maybe even just half of them, they don't want to make a new game. They kind of got that, like, Edmund McMillan thing, where he doesn't...
did it right the first time.
Yeah, we're like, you know, I did this thing, I don't want to make a sequel, I want to make... I like that universe, I want to go back to that universe, but I want to make a completely different game. that's, you know, aesthetically and partially designy similar.
Which is why when they made all the original games on 8-bit, they then remade them on SNES, and then they remade them again on SNES, or on N64. That's why they did that.
You know, Nintendo really is the king of the HD remaster. They've been doing it for years. They've been doing it way before anybody else did. But
they did make them new games.
Oh, yeah. No,
it's not like they just made them like a fresh paint job in HD textures. It's like they're actually better games for the most part.
I mean, I'm like mostly talking about things like, you know, like if you look at the difference between, you know, Legend of Zelda to Link to the Past, and then
I would say it's an objectively better game, as well as Metroid to Super Metroid, much better game.
Or you know, then it doesn't necessarily have to be better, but different. You can look at something like Mario 64 to Mario Sunshine to Mario Galaxy. You know, those are all vastly different, although still in keeping with some fundamental mechanics, while also branching out and being not a sequel. You know, they could have made the same thing, but they didn't. Although, as of late, they have been going back to, like, we're gonna make a sequel, basically, to all those old games that people grew up with. Like, with Donkey Kong Country Returns and...
Right, because those are, again, the demographic that like the idea of the symbolism of Mario, and they just want to play a thing like what they remember Mario's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's something behind that analysis. I think that's kind of what's been their guiding focus, is not to cater to people who know a lot about stuff. It's the people that want the idea of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Well...
Vague statement I just made.
I hope Zelda is good. That's what I hope. I really do. I hope they are considering the landscape of the world and the market and all of the things that have all of the great aspects of Zelda over the past 20 years and all of the negative aspects of Zelda over the past 20 years that should either be changed or done away with. I hope they're considering all that stuff. I really do.
I just think that they can't have gotten to where they are now, having made all these strange decisions without following that same path of whatever the guiding force was that led them down that road. So for them to just all of a sudden realize, wait a minute, we screwed up, Rob doesn't like this direction, they've got a whole other idea about why they're going down this road.
Yeah, no, that's
Games
true.
like Skyward Sword take a lot of hours to create. And they had a very specific idea they were going after with that ethos behind that game. And it wasn't to be a hardcore game for Zelda lovers.
Yeah. Although they're saying all the right things about this new Zelda game.
Because they've got to get you invested in the hype. That way you buy it blindly without questioning it.
Well, my question is the execution. That's all I'm concerned about. I mean, they're saying some really interesting things. Like they're saying some things like, hey, you see this thing over in the distance? Well, you can go to that in this game. Or, you know, horses don't run into trees. So we've spent a lot of time working on Epona's AI, stuff like that. You know, as like horses don't jump off cliffs or they won't go walk into a dragon or something.
Remember the Call of Duty technology that allowed the fish to get out of the way when you're swimming through it? That is not impressive anymore.
Well, no, the horse AI is a little bit impressive just because not all games that feature horses spend any time dealing with that. I can look at a recent example of, like, say, Witcher 3, where the horse is super glitchy and weird, or even something like Skyrim, where the horse is fucking, like, just, like, as if the horse had never been in a world before, like it's just been born seconds ago, and, like, runs into a fight with a dragon for some reason. And then you compare that to something where you remember the horse and how good the horse was, Red Dead Redemption, where they spent a lot of their development time making sure that horse felt like a horse, like a living animal that you know, he's gonna run away when he hears a loud noise, or he's not gonna run into a tree or jump off a cliff even though the player wants him to. You know, you remember the horse from Red Dead Redemption, or the horses, because they were cool. It was a good mechanic and it felt right. And then you remember the shitty horses for being shitty, and you know,
you just don't remember the shitty horses for the most part, and I think that's where the developers took it too. The horses are just a method of transport; they're not a central element to the gameplay. Whereas in Zelda they are, and in Red Dead they are. They're they're central to the gameplay, but like they don't matter. They're not a character.
Right, but I mean, making more things into characters is something that adds to a fantasy element and immersive element of a lot of games. I mean,
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's expected from Zelda.
it's hopefully expected. I mean, they never really fucked around with horse AI too much in the older Zelda games, so.
The point being, they named Epona Epona. Right? We're supposed to know that's a character that's going to show up again.
Yeah, that's true as well. But I mean, Zelda has always added a lot of character to their worlds as well. I would be really interested. I would be really interested in seeing a Zelda game that was more like the original Legend of Zelda, where they don't club you over the head with the lore, and people who want the lore have to dig for it.
And we wonder why Dark Souls was so popular. Yes.
No, that's why I've made that comparison before of Dark Souls and Zelda, because it Dark Souls does feel a lot to me like the original Legend of Zelda, where they don't club you over the head with the lore. The lore is there. If you want to know it, go ahead and look.
Yeah.
But you don't have to sit through a 20-minute cutscene to find it out. Now, I mean, that said, I don't dislike a lot of lore either. Like, I mean, I love Ocarina of Time. That's one of, if not my favorite games of all time. And in that game, they spend a lot of time telling you the lore. But
I feel like
really
Dark Souls is Harry Potter's last year at Hogwarts for Zelda. You know what I mean? Like, we grew up, Zelda didn't. But Dark Souls was the last year of that for us. Like, that was the one that made the jump for us, that has all those same elements of exploration and intrigue, and lets you figure it out on your own, and has the thing we maybe all wanted Zelda to turn out to be, only minus the elf. Right?
Well, I mean, there was a time where I was totally into. I mean, I still am, actually. Like, but I won't lie. There's a time maybe where I was more into the whole idea of, oh yeah, just fucking shove that lore down my throat. I wanna know what's going on, because I mean, even when they have been very, hardcore about here's all the things that have been going on in this world, there were always in every game, there's always been elements of like the lore is esoteric, where you don't know where this fits in the timeline. You don't know what happened before, like what happened after,
because it was largely unconsidered.
Right, yeah, and well, yeah.
And then we piece it back together post hoc and say, oh look, it's the lore, we made the lore happen.
Yes and no, though. I mean, like, you can look at something like Ocarina of Time, which I think is the beginning of them actually not necessarily
noticing that they could put it together. Yeah, how many games in is that they then decided to say, hey wait, there could be continuity in this universe?
That was the 4th game, so yeah. But
over the course of, what, 15 years?
Yeah, something like that. 10 years, maybe.
It took them, like, 10 to 15 years to realize there could be continuity in a universe with 4 sequels.
Well, I mean,
That's just weird to me.
Well, Zelda 2 is a direct sequel to Zelda 1, so that does link up with the lore. Link to the Past, I think they made that not really considering whether or not it fit in with the original Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2. I think Link to the Past, they kind of said, like, okay, what are all the things that we want out of a Zelda game that we couldn't do on the hardware that we had?
Wait, it's not 4. There's Link's Awakening and the Oracle of Ages and those two.
I'm talking about the main series. I mean, if you look at, like, Oracle of Ages and Seasons, that was made by Capcom. That wasn't even made by Nintendo.
Minish Cap, that all happened roughly around those times.
And I think Link's Awakening is the Link to the Past Link as well, so that's in a way another sequel. That's like a Majora's Mask.
Oh, I don't want to go down this road.
Yeah, well, I've spent a lot of time looking at the lore of Zelda, but I mean, they've been doing like Ocarina of Time even. They talk about a bunch of different things in Ocarina of Time that kind of call back to what happened in Link to the Past, and like the intro lore section of Link to the Past, where it's like, the 7 wise men sealed away Ganondorf after the imprisoning war or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Ocarina of Time, as you're playing the game and, lore is sort of unfurling for you, if you paid attention in Link to the Past and you cared about the lore, even though they didn't really club you over the head with it, you start realizing, like, oh, this is the imprisoning war. This is that thing that they talked about. That's what we're playing right now. And stuff like that is really cool because it like it doesn't reward me directly as a player, but it rewards me as a fan of Zelda. And that's cool, right? Like I like that. That's
I always play them for mechanics, honestly. I just like that they were fantasy Metroidvania games, and every time they would try to make reference to the story, I was like, all right, I get it, but I don't think you care about the story enough.
See,
so I would just kind of go past it.
That's the thing. That's why I want to see a Zelda game where they don't club you over the head with the story, because I know there's a lot of players that haven't spent a lot of time with the Zelda series, and I want that to be for me, you know, and doesn't have to be for everyone else, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so.
And that would be great. I mean, even stuff in, like, Twilight Princess. When, you know, you find the hidden village and it's like, oh, shit, that's Kakariko from the older game. That's crazy. Like once you're starting to learn these things and you see these little, there's, like, imagery. There's all this, like, esoteric shit all over the place. And it's cool. It's fucking awesome if you're a fan of the series.
Just growing up with it, I don't think they really wanted the series to end up being a long, linear story. I think they just kind of made stories around the concept of Zelda, sort of the way they do with Batman. It's like, here's this reoccurring legend figure, and we'll just put him in a bunch of different environments, and they'll all have a bunch of items and dungeons you go through, and it won't really matter how it all turns out in the end, because we'll just keep making more of them, and you'll keep buying them. And I was fine with that concept. And then one day we realized, man, we love the concept of Zelda. We need to write stories about it, and we need to make sure they all make sense. And that's where you lose me, is because they can't make sense. So stop trying to make them make sense. Just have fun with the idea.
See, that's why...
And then I get frustrated.
That's why I actually have been, like... I both like that they release the official timeline and dislike it, because I like it because it's like I get closure. I get to know what the actual timeline is. But then,
isn't the closure kind of hollow? Because it's like it's made up closure that's just for your sake, and it's not really legitimate.
Well, not really, because I mean, like I said, all the games, if you go past like Zelda 2, all of the games have references to the other games in a either substantial or not terribly substantial way. Okay. So you know, they've always kind of fallen under some sort of a timeline in a way, especially once you get into Ocarina of Time. Like once Ocarina of Time is there, they all fit together. And we've known for a long time that they've had an official timeline that they have that was a secret. That's at least what they said. And I spent a lot of I really enjoyed nerding out over trying to work my own timeline as to how it was gonna work. And also,
but they didn't mean it to exist though until later, is what I'm getting at.
Well, yes. I mean,
they wrote themselves out of corners wherever it was convenient for them.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no though, right? Because like, yes, because there was a great deal of time between Zelda 1 and Ocarina of Time. But, honestly, you could even say Link to the Past, because Link to the Past starts off with a storyline. It doesn't necessarily link up with The Legend of Zelda, but it's like the beginnings of them saying, like, hey, there actually is a storyline to the universe here.
I thought that Link to the Past was meant to be a reboot, positionally, for the series, that we go, okay, ignore all that shit that happened, we're gonna start the Zelda story here now.
That's what I said earlier, is that it's like, hey, what are all the things that we wanted out of Zelda that we couldn't do in the last generation of hardware, that we want to make a good Zelda game, let's reboot the series, make Link to the Past. Yes. But that's the thing, is like, beyond that point, though, they all kind of fit together, and the only ones that are really kind of ad hoc are Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, where those are like, they had to put them somewhere in the universe.
But Link's Awakening happened before Link to the Past, didn't it?
I'm
pretty sure it came out like
that happened after
91 or something.
I mean, I actually never played Link's Awakening. That's one of the Zelda games.
It's actually really good.
I've heard it's good, actually.
It's a little frustrating because the design ethos is kind of like the puzzles are a little frustrating and they don't always work properly, but I liked it in general.
Link to the Past. No, yeah. So It came out 2 years after Link to the Past, and as far as I know, that's the same Link from Link to the Past in Link's Awakening.
The Game Boy version of that came out after the SNES version.
Really?
Right.
For Link's Awakening?
No, I'm just saying what you said is that.
Well, yeah, Link to the Past came out first on the SNES, and then they came out with Link's Awakening on the Game Boy.
Had it backward in my head, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah. And I'm pretty sure that that's the same Link. Also, consider the fact that the whole game was a fucking dream anyway, so... But,
I wasn't gonna say that, but that is an element.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is he washes up on a shore of some island, so, like, they didn't even need to make it a dream. Mm-hmm. It could have been self-standing just by virtue of the fact that it has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah. Well... See, here's the thing. I'm gonna go nerd mode here.
All right, let's go.
Is people... There are points in the story that make you sort of realize that yes, it was a dream technically, but
it still wasn't.
But yeah, but that universe was actually very real. It just existed in it was like a kind of like a bubble universe that Link through his dreaming happened to, you know, walk through a doorway into. And so he did really change that world of things, but it was a dream. So it doesn't necessarily
How does it matter if you change the world if it never has any bearing on anything else?
Oh, well, it's just a Zelda game, and nothing necessarily has bearing on anything else besides the self-contained story within the game itself.
Hey, that's all I'm after. None of this matters.
Well,
it's like the stories are all mostly self-standing, and then we write them in a big net.
Yeah, right, but the thing that's really interesting to me as a nerd is, like, hearing or seeing references to, you know, whatever ended up happening to this character or this part of the world or this history. You know, like Wind Waker. Wind Waker's really interesting because back when Wind Waker came out, we didn't know the timeline, and it was like, oh shit, Hyrule's all fucked up, it's underwater and shit. And then you start realizing some things like, oh okay, wait, you know, when you think about it, like Legend of Zelda, the world's like really fucked up. Like, it's super apocalyptic. There aren't any people around. The world's just filled with monsters and dungeons, and like nothing is going on. And Zelda 2, they mapped that one out, and it was like next to the place that you played in the original game, and that was like so it's like a whole post-apocalyptic thing. So something must have happened with Ganondorf or Ganon rather.
You know what? I would love to have the control over the series so I could make a game that makes no sense with all of the perceived timeline, just to see how people react to it and then make it forced to make sense.
They would, yeah, they totally would.
I know, that's why it would be so interesting to see people do backflips to do it.
Mm-hmm. See, but that's the fun. The backflipping was fun, and that's why having the timeline was, hey, that was another magic meme way back in the day. You want to do some backflips? Yeah. I don't
remember that one, actually.
It was a long time ago. Anyway, right. But, yeah, no, the doing the backflips and trying to connect it in your head based on these tiny little clues that they put in different parts of the game. That's really interesting. And having the official timeline released, it, you know, sort of takes away from it a little bit, you know? Also, the official timeline's kind of shitty, because people had always theorized that the official timeline had a split universe because of Ocarina of Time, and everyone figured it was like a two-pronged split, where it was like, you know, Link's adult life, where he defeats Ganondorf after he's, like, destroyed Hyrule, and then when he goes back to being a kid at the end of the game and continues to live his life, and then he goes over to Termina and does all his shit there. And those are the two timelines. But then Nintendo said there's a third timeline, and that third timeline is where Link actually lost. So the game over screen at whatever point you happen to hit it, that is technically another timeline as well.
Okay.
Where Link didn't beat Ganondorf.
Why does that matter?
See, I don't like it very much, because it's not very interesting to me, is like the timeline where you lost.
Why even say that? Every game has a fail state for the most part.
Yeah.
Is that considered canon for those games? Why do you get to be special that it matters? It doesn't bear anything out on anything else.
See, and that's the other thing, right? Is that when you add in the Link failure timeline, then you also have to consider, well, okay, so if we're accepting that there's a...
Yeah, then they all split again when you lose in all those other timelines.
Exactly, right? Like, that would be the logical thing, is that they all split over and over again in every single game. So
or does it only arbitrarily matter in one of those splits?
Yeah, that's...
And then why?
Yes, exactly. That's part of the reason that I don't like the hero is defeated timeline. And there's actually a lot of games in the hero is defeated timeline. Like, it actually... The first thing in the hero is defeated timeline is A Link to the Past. Which is actually kind of strange that that's in there for some reason.
Where's Spirit Tracks? Because I hate that game.
Spirit Tracks is on the hero is successful adult era.
Where he decides to become a train conductor for some arbitrary reason.
Yeah.
What the hell is happening with our favorite game franchises, man?
I don't know.
Touchscreens happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then Twilight Princess and whatnot is child era hero. Hero wins. And that's a lot of the games fall under the hero is defeated timeline when you could fit them into those other two timelines. You know?
Why not do that?
I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like their official timeline. That's the other aspect of it. Maybe if I liked their official timeline better, I would be alright with them releasing it. But
so then it'll split again, because then it'll be like, we've decided your timeline is wrong, so there'll be the alternate timeline, which is actually an official timeline that falls underneath the official timeline.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know, man.
This is just too much work.
Yeah. But
I liked when it just didn't matter and didn't make sense. You just have fun with the games, appreciate them for what they are, and move on.
Well, for the most part, though, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't necessarily need to make sense to the player most of the time. Like, for some reason, I think they really doubled down on that in Skyward Sword, because it's like an origin story of the whole universe, right? Because it's like the beginning. Like, Skyward Sword is all about kickstarting the Hylian universe and instituting the law of Link and Ganon must
That's
fight
why it matters
eternally and stuff. Yeah,
it matters because we get games that don't make any damn sense if you don't care.
It does in that case, but Skyward Sword is largely regarded as a pretty bad Zelda game, so you know that. All the other ones...
Let's avoid the bad ones by not making obvious mistakes, then.
Yes, I agree. And most of the other ones, the overarching story of the entire universe doesn't really matter that much. So, you know, besides Skyward Sword, the most of the games do fall under that thing where the overarching story doesn't matter that much. I mean, even in Skyward Sword, it doesn't really, but, like, they've crafted the story around the aspect of it being an origin story for the universe of Zelda, which is... yeah, not that.
I just thought we were going to keep remaking the original concept of Zelda with whatever the new hardware could support forever. Like Sisyphusian kind of push the boulder type of thing.
Right.
Like, we're just going to start with the original concept. We're going to go to the Link to the Past, and we're going to do 64. Then we're going to do, I guess, the gritty reboot, which never turned out to be because you're a wolf. And then it just all went everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it got real weird real fast.
We just stopped with the formula, which was just keep remaking Zelda, and we'll all be happy every time.
Yeah.
Who was ever upset about a Zelda reboot?
Well, you know, hopefully this one's good. It could be. And you know what? Here's the thing. Part of the reason that I'm excited to go into this new Zelda is I can't wait to go into the lore and find out where it fits in the timeline. That's something that I'm going to be excited for. And I hope they don't make it really easy for me to do that, you know? I hope that they don't club me over the head with the lore.
Backflip.
I would love to backflip. I would love to theorize, like, where it should fit, what references to what things are being made, like, where it actually fits, where it's gonna be. I would love to do all that stuff, because it's so much fun to me. And what I want them to do is I want them to have whatever story exists in the game, I want it to be self-contained. Like, I want to only care about the characters that exist within that game, and their storylines, and what they have to do with me in my current journey in Zelda, and the way that they link to the rest of the universe is sort of, you know, just tangential. That's what I want. And I hope they do that.
It's weird because actually, in a way, I see what you're saying. They need to be more not characters and more just sort of ethereal I don't know, ghosts. They show up in this game, they exist for a while, they don't matter at all, and then they go away again.
Yeah, they don't matter at all to the overarching story of the universe, because that's
what
like...
story requires that, though? That's so strange that we've created this archetype that needs people that don't matter for this to be an entertaining story.
Well, it's not necessarily that, right? It's like because whenever you enter into a Zelda game, you're playing the Zelda game because it just so happens that the hero of courage and the holder of the Triforce of Courage, the holder of the Triforce of Power, and the holder of the Triforce of Wisdom happen to be reincarnated in this era of Hyrule's history in this particular timeline. So the only reason you're playing in this point is because those three things happened. If well, for the most part, most of the main series of games have that. The side games don't necessarily need that, but for the most part, that's why you're back in Hyrule, is because those three things happened. And the reason that you have to keep the rest of the characters out of that is because, you know, for hundreds of years, that part of the world didn't really matter. The Triforce of Power, Courage, and Wisdom. It's the legend of Zelda, right? It's like, it's a legend. To all the people that exist in that world, they just live day to day, you know? They you know, farm their crops, eat their food, raise their kids, and go to work, do all their shit. And, you know, this great time period is thrust upon them because it's sort of like a predestined fate thing that has to happen every couple hundred years.
They have to coordinate really well, though. Otherwise, you won't be able to progressively unlock items that just work in the right dungeons. So they actually have to think really hard about how they're going to set up their town.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
Like, the Bombchu guy's got to only be open on the right night to make sure you can get the Bombchu the night you need to go to the dungeon the next day.
The thing is, though, with this new Zelda game, that's obviously it's a funny joke. I know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is what they have said, though, with the new Zelda game is that they're experimenting with, or I don't know if they confirm that this is what they're doing, that you're going to be able to tackle dungeons in whatever order you want. So
I think it's a huge mistake.
I disagree. I think that's a great idea.
They got that idea from the last one on 3DS. People seem to really like it. I think it just really does a disservice to the feeling of progression in the game.
I don't know. I like it because that's like the original Legend of Zelda. That's like one of the things that was cool about the original Legend of Zelda is that, like, your experimentation led you to the dungeons and led you to your progression, and that's really exciting, and you can do them in mostly any order that you want, right? So that is a cool aspect of it, and figuring out what the best order is, or whatever order you want, is like, it's kind of part of the fun, you know, almost like a Mega Man game, you know, like figuring out who is the easiest robot master to take down first, and whose power works against what and whatnot, and all that, you know, dilly-dally.
Hasn't there always been this ramping up feeling of tension and atmosphere that you now no longer can really have?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe that will kill pacing. It's possible. I would imagine, though, that, like, it will be restricted. You can choose whatever dungeon you want, you know? Like, I'm sure...
There's probably 3 tiers or something, like Titan Souls, maybe.
Yeah, like...
well, that's not even the right... Yeah.
I'm thinking it'd probably be, like, at least the first dungeon, perhaps the first 2 will be locked. You have to do that. And then the last dungeon, of course, will be locked as, like, you can't do
Dr. Wily's
that one.
Castle.
Right, exactly. But the ones in between will all kind of be, you know, up to you as to...
Ganondorf should show up out of a giant skull and wiggle his eyebrows at you. And then fly off into the night.
That'd be pretty good. I'd be into that. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It could be very cool. I would be very excited about something like that. But that kind of goes back to, like, what I was saying, is like exploring Hyrule should be like, I'm exploring this little slice of Hyrule's history, you know? Like, all of the people exist within that slice of history. They've lived their own lives, they've done their own things, they have all of their own storylines. My overall storyline is more important, but that's only because I've been thrust into this position of greatness, you know?
To the point of the characters needing to be ethereal, I think that actually still serves better for the game, because I've always disliked when they make the other characters as important as me, or that I have to serve them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really seem true to the concept anymore. When it's like, oh, well, I have this pig over here and he's on an island, and if you can't get him, I don't know what I'll do. It was like, I don't care. You have a go get your pig. Fuck you. I'm doing my own thing. I've got the world to save. And if I have to now start doing service for people that I don't even know their names and are also irrelevant,
yeah,
right? That doesn't make sense.
Well, Twilight Princess kind of forced you into the menial task thing, which is,
I think, a big mistake.
I agree. Yeah, no,
You should be focused on your deal and exploration, and people should just be a dude you click on and like says 2 lines of dialogue, and then they walk away.
I think that something I've been talking about, like kind of the meta of Zelda, of things that I want out of the game.
Yeah, I'm very mechanic focused.
There is there's also a somewhat mechanical thing that I care about a whole lot, which is, don't make the goddamn tutorial 4 hours long.
I don't want any
tutorial.
tutorial.
Love of God, yes, make it optional.
At all.
Like,
no,
just
no tutorial.
Just don't make it. The tutorial in Twilight Princess lasts like beyond the first dungeon. And it's just, it's the most grindy thing. And it's sad, because once the game opens up, the game's beautiful. Like, I love Twilight Princess. I think it's a really, really great Zelda game. But one of my major gripes with it is the tutorial is so god-awfully long that it is frustrating. And that has been a trend, actually, for a while. Like, Link to the Past tutorial was like, hey, there's a sign in this room that says press A to open things. Go out into the world, do what you gotta do. You know, and then you go into the first cave dungeon thing where there's like 5 or 6 rooms and you learn how to use items and hit people with swords. And that's it. Rest of the game, you know, go explore the overworld. And Ocarina of Time did like a similar thing where, except it took longer. You know, you have to go through the first dungeon and then, you know, you learn how to play the ocarina and the owl teaches you some shit. And then you get into Hyrule Field and it's like, explore away, motherfucker. And then it just keeps going, but it gets longer and longer and longer. Every game, the tutorial's gotten longer to the point where in Twilight Princess, it takes like 4 hours to make it feel like I can now explore.
If I remember correctly, in Skyward Sword, they give you tutorial tips on items you've picked up over the course of the entire game. Like, when you find a rare item, like a synthesis item, because yes, there's a crafting system in that game, it's like, this is a thing, and it does the thing. And it's like, I know, I picked this up like 60 times. Can you fuck off, please? What happened to the day when we used to be like, hey, I bought this $60 game. I'm holding a controller in my hands. I'm going to press all these buttons until the things I want to accomplish become obvious to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, why can't we do that ever?
That said, though, we remember that. And people I think remember fondly the lack of tutorials in older games and how you used to just pick up a game, pop it in, and then press a bunch of buttons and figure out what shit did. And I love that too. But we have to keep in mind that that isn't necessarily how the game developers intended you to learn the game, because back in the day, every game shipped with like a 60-page instruction booklet on how to play the game. So they've always
people really read that.
Well, that's the thing, is nobody ever really did. Every kid came home, opened up the cartridge, looked at the pretty pictures in the instruction booklet.
They read it, but not to learn how the game works. They read it for their own amusement later.
Exactly, yeah. They popped the game in and then figured out what the buttons did and went wild.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah.
They did.
Whereas, so game developers have always been trying to tutorialize for you. It's just they didn't want to spend valuable memory back in the day on putting it inside of the game. You know, so it's kind of always been like that.
They tutorialize through subtle means. You know, there's a cave in front of you when you start Zelda, and you walk into it. That's a tutorial element.
No, totally. I totally agree. Tutorial by design is so much more.
And they do it less and less now.
They do. Yeah, you're right. Tutorial by design.
It's lazy. It's stupid and lazy, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I think Batman Arkham Knight does tutorial pretty well, actually. Like when you when you first get the Batmobile, trying to learn how to do the Batmobile stuff, it's like you save a firefighter and you fly up onto a building, and this is kind of spoiler, but this is like in the first 10 minutes of the game, so you're not missing much. But anyway, so you get a firefighter, you fly up onto the top of a building, and Batman looks down at the bunch of armed thugs. And he's like, and the firefighter's like, oh, what are you gonna do? And Batman's like, I'm gonna even the odds. And then then a little pop-up shows up on your screen and it says, press LB to even the odds. And then you press it, and then the Batmobile comes flying in, knocks everybody out, and you jump down into the Batmobile, and then it's like, there you go, go drive, have fun.
That's them having a little fun with the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. But, you know.
It's fine. If you want to make a button prompt occasionally, we'll get the idea after the first time we do it. If we don't, we'll search around by hitting all the buttons until we figure it out again.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
But tutorial by design is definitely the way to go, in my opinion. Like, you look at something like Super Meat Boy. Super Meat Boy does tutorial by design for the most part.
One of the most cohesive examples of that, in fact.
Exactly. Like, oh, hey, this ledge, like in the first like 3 levels. Yeah, like in the like I think it's the 3rd level where it's like, okay, I'm now going to teach the player that some jumps need to be made by sprinting, because it is impossible to reach this ledge unless you sprint jump it. So the player will jump it a couple of times, they'll fuck up, and then they'll be like, okay, let's try holding RT, and they could do it, and now they have learned something.
I believe there's 2 signs that give you, like 2 pop-up windows that show you a thing. The first one is A to jump, the second one is run. And then from there, it's all just through example.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
And I've run through that game so many times now, like, that doesn't register to me as anything because those levels are over with in, like, less than 3 seconds.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tutorial by design is definitely better than, you know, some of the like early 2000s games or like the late 90s games where the way that they decided to teach you how to play the game is, all right, we're going to pause the game and write you an essay, and these are all the different things that you need to know about how to deal with this stuff. And it's like, I bought a fucking video game, not a book. Just can I press A through it? Or the ones where in the early 2000s where it would lock the tutorial. I mean, some games still do it, and it's garbage, but where they lock the tutorial where it's like, you can press A to jump. And then go back into the game, and it's like, press A 3 times to jump. And it's like, oh, 1 out of 3 jumps, good work. 2 out of 3 jumps, good work. And it's like, dude, like, this is fucking, stop, please, don't make me do this. Just let me fucking find it out. I'll do it myself. I don't want to do it. But
yeah, I don't want a system based around learning the game. I want to play the game. Those are 2 discrete elements. Now, I do realize not every game can be taught that way, because there's elements of foreshadowing and things that actually do need explanation. And I'm thinking of, you know, very complex systems, and I'm starting to wonder, actually, like, sometimes if maybe those systems are just better off not being included because they require so much explanation.
Yeah.
Like, if you have to sit and read through this big thing about how you gather together the Brotherhood of Assassins before you can build a villa, and I'm throwing together concepts here.
Right.
And this is a thing that's going to take place over the course of the rest of the game. You may or may not be invested in this concept, but we're going to teach you about it whether or not you care to do it or use it.
Yeah.
Do you want to necessarily have to learn about that?
Mm-hmm. Or do you like something like EU4 or like other grand strategy games where if they did a proper tutorial in those games, a proper tutorial would be like the length of regular games' like entire time played, you know? It'd be like a 20-hour tutorial. And nobody really wants to do that. So like EU4, how they... I mean, I don't think they do it well. I won't hold up EU4 and Crusader Kings as like really good at teaching you. But I will say that their approach with it is like, hey, here's a bunch of like essay-long dialogue things of things that will, you know, give you a general idea of how to play the game, and you can read them or you can not read them. But what we did instead is here's like everything that you can scroll over has a very comprehensive tooltip that explains exactly what this thing does.
Right.
And you can figure it out yourself over the course of several hundred hours, because that's how those games are designed to be played for a very long time. So
I think it makes sense to do it that way for that type of game. It makes me wonder, though, what their drawing is for people who don't even know if they want to play that game. Because I don't know how you make the transition from a person who has tangentially heard of Crusader Kings to a person who now is good at Crusader Kings. There has to be this element of trust that you're giving the game, that you will get a return of enjoyment for the amount of time that you're spending learning about it before you can actually enjoy playing it. I don't know if the end justifies the means. Like, the gratification at the end for me is probably not enough.
Yeah. I mean, I've been playing grand strategy games since EU3, which is a long, long time ago now. And that's when I first started playing the Paradox grand strategy games. And the reason that I sought it out initially is because I played things like, I think it was actually because I played the Total War games. And
Yeah, I played those. They're pretty good.
Yeah, and the campaign mode, as you know if you've played it, they have a grand strategy element to it. And I played through them, and when I was playing them, I was like, and this is, granted, keep in mind, this is like when I was like, you know, I guess 12 or like 13 or something. And I was playing that, and it was like, you know, this is fun, but it doesn't have a great deal of replay value for me. I mean, it did, but I mean, like, the grand strategy element of it didn't have that much replay value for me because there wasn't a lot of depth to the things that I could do. And so I looked up, like games like Total War campaign mode, but deeper, basically. And then I found EU3. And then
I played it for the combat, not for the management, so I guess that's where we differ there.
Right, I think that's the main thing, is that I wanted the management because I love the management aspect of games. And I think people who are interested in the management aspect, or of managing things, love those grand strategy games because it's super duper, like, it's not only just good, like, they're some of the best manager games ever, but they're also pretty and nice and well made, and also they're fun. And if you seek, I mean, if you seek it out,
that was quite a sentence.
Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought halfway through there, but yeah, no, so you have that aspect of it, and I think to your point though that you made was, how do people seek it out? I think now that middleman is actually like YouTube and Let's Plays and stuff, because I think people find those games through Let's Plays, and you know, they'll have like a personality that they like playing it.
Well, you know, Paradox must have asked this exact question and come to the same conclusion, because that's why they're so behind YouTubers.
Oh yeah, totally.
They're marketing, because I don't know how else you would market those games.
The other thing is, like, with like Let's Plays on YouTube is a fantastic way for players to be tutorialized on how the game works.
Right. In a non-condescending manner that doesn't degrade players.
Like, you get provided, because like it's a double unedged sword. Like,
I don't know what that means.
Both sides. Well, like, you know, you say double-edged swords when like, you know, both options are bad, but both options are good. Where it's like you get tutorialized, and then also
killing two birds with one stone. We go from the sword to the birds there.
Right, yeah, yeah. So, but like, you know, when you watch a Let's Play of a grand strategy game, if you are enjoying the Let's Play, you not only get entertainment, but you also learn about the game. So it's a really good way for people to learn about EU4 or CK2 or stuff like that. So, because a lot of people would love to try those games, but it's so fucking daunting, and I totally understand how daunting it is. Because it was really daunting to me when I was playing EU3 back in the day for the first time. That was an age before Let's Plays, and I had to figure it out by just, like, you know, playing the game for a long time. You know what I mean? So.
I think the real question is for people that are on the fence about whether or not this is even a thing that would pay off for them, like, at all. Mm-hmm. Let's Plays are, like, the only option.
Yeah.
Because you're not just going to start a game of that and just click on buttons for 2 hours. You're not even going to accomplish anything.
Well,
you've got to see someone proficient to know what the target even is that you want to aim for.
Well, that's the thing, is most people won't. And what they accomplish through Let's Plays is they're hoping, I think, to get people who wouldn't do that, but would rather watch an entertaining personality do it, and then they'll buy the game because they're like, okay, I didn't have to do that process of learning the game. Somebody else did it for me and then taught me, and now I can jump in and still feel like, you know, somewhat competent at playing the game before I even boot it up.
The next step for them is going to be, how do we market the YouTubers that are playing our games to get people to watch them playing our game to then want to play it? Yeah. Does that make sense? They need to go even one level further, because right now, what is my impetus to click on Northern Lions Let's Play of CK2?
Right. Well,
I go, wow, that's like really dense. I don't want to watch this, even though I like this guy.
I think that's the thing, is like YouTube has that appeal, right? Is like, And that's why it's sort of that perfect storm of good thing, like good for the developers, good for the YouTubers, good for the everything, good for the consumers, because it's like YouTube, unlike something like editorial that has been that we all grew up with, and that was the way that we experienced games, was like game reviews and walkthroughs and stuff like that.
Game Pro heads, the more frizzed out the hair is, the more exciting the game is.
Right, yeah. So like that's the way that we grew up, like trying to figure out whether a game was interesting for us to play. Now people get to grow up, or I mean, I'm not even saying growing up, like even like me, that's how I experience new games a lot of the time, is like, I like this person, he likes this game, he entertains me.
Good fit.
Yeah, so like let's try it out. Let's try it on for size. See if this is for me. And then and the other aspect of it is, you know, YouTube has that kind of appeal of I've heard about this thing because a lot of people are talking about it or whatever, and there's, I mean, 1,000 Let's Plays in 1,000 parts all over the place. It's pretty easy for me to jump in and see if I could like this. So
well, I guess what I was saying is it's not even about that they're available, it's why would I bother with them at all?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if I like this person, and they've got 5 other Let's Plays of other things, and they happen to like this one particular series, and, I mean, Northern Lion is the perfect example here, because he actually does do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big fan of The Binding of Isaac. I'm not such a big fan of grand strategy games, but he plays those.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to make me go from the Isaac to the grand strategy game?
Well, I think it might be impossible to get a 100% conversion rate, as we've seen.
Sure, but I think that there's
anything.
things they could do to mitigate the risk there.
Maybe, but then you also have to consider, like, I think they know.
They intend to make a niche game.
Yeah, I mean, I think they know that the game will
I'm saying
never
that like I don't know that. I do know that they're intending to make a niche game.
Yeah, like they know that their games will never have like mass appeal. It's never gonna sell like Call of Duty, you know, like not every kid that wants to, like, you know, talk about fucking other people on the internet's moms and blowing up people's heads and getting kill streaks. Those kids are never gonna want to play those games. So I think they know that, and I think what they want to do is they would rather make the experience a little bit easier for people to break into, and I think they've been doing that for a while now. Like I think EU4 is definitely, it has, and this is stupid. This is a stupid thing I'm about to say to most people who don't even want to play grand strategy games, but EU4 is kind of like an easy to learn, hard to master game.
All right.
Which is it's fine. The reason I say it's stupid to say is because, like, yeah, EU4 is definitely not easy to learn, but compared to their other
relatively
titles,
so.
Yes, compared to their other titles, it is a little bit more simple in a lot of its mechanics. It's a little bit easier to play, and you can get to that place where you're deriving fun from doing cool things and executing your strategies or your predictions in your head. Like, it's easier to get to that place of catharsis in that game than it is in something like, you know, Victoria 2 or EU3 even.
Well, isn't the ultimate goal, though, it's the most profitability as possible? And I understand niche games are definitely a thing they're huge on, but wouldn't it really behoove them to create a side series that is literally catered to people who have no knowledge of this, and it really plays up the most exciting elements of the decisions you make, so that way it starts them on the path toward those more niche games?
Yes, but you know, I was actually thinking about this the other day.
Like the console one.
Yeah, but I mean, that one didn't even really do that well, and most of the...
Well, but that was the aim, though, was to make it accessible for people who were not interested in it.
But that was the thing, right, is that it kind of failed because it didn't offer the same level of depth that the rest of the Civ games gave, and so the people
There were a couple of people that were really into it, though.
I'm sure, but, like... And I'm sure if they made Civilization Revolution 2, it would probably sell very well. But the question is, like, did Civ Revolution do well enough to hook people into the idea of Civ to want to get into the deeper mechanics because they learned the overly simplified version of it so that they would play regular Civ games?
Or was that where they tap out regardless?
Exactly. And so it's sort of like an exercise in defeating yourself, because... Sure, you can make something that maybe more people will play initially, but will they stay around? You know, I don't know. I mean, And the thing again with the EU4 and the grand strategy is like it'll always be niche, but I think they're okay with that. I don't think they. Those games sell really well. They actually make a lot of money on those games, and
And I don't mean to demean them either. I'm just sort of trying to wrap my head around the way this formula and this part of the market works, because it's a part that I have very little knowledge of, to be honest.
Well, part of the thing, too, is that nothing else exists in that space. They don't have any competition. So there are people like me who seek out these management games, who want to play those kind of things, and there's not really any alternative or at least there's not a great deal of alternatives to something like an EU4 or a CK2. There's not a lot of alternatives to that. It's just that. And thankfully, the guys at Paradox are extremely passionate about what they do, because they don't take this lack of they don't take this lack of competition to, you know, rest on their laurels. They actually spend all of their time and effort and money on improving the game and making it better and making it more fun and making it more interesting. Which doesn't necessarily happen in competitionless markets for most of the time, so it's pretty amazing that they actually do that.
Yeah, none of that was meant to be shots at Paradox, by the way. I have, like, a ton of respect for them, even though I don't play a lot of their games. I just, I want to understand it more.
Yeah.
And it sounds really weird to say, but the parallel that I want to draw here is a game like, and I don't even know if you've heard of this, but this visual novel game called Long Live the Queen.
Oh, okay,
where you play as, like, this 14-year-old princess, and then you've got to, like, ascend to the throne and make decisions about your world and how you want to develop it. There's a lot of potential in that concept, and I feel like that could really be applied well to a scenario like a grand strategy game like that, where you've got a character and everything around them is really malleable.
Well, that's actually how, like, CK2 works, honestly.
Except, though, but it's all sort of procedural, though, right? Like, every time you play it, it's a little bit sort of template cookie cutter.
Well, no, not at all. It's all different every time. I mean, it's like England will always be in England, basically, or at least start in England. But I mean, you know, there's a chance that Scotland takes over England, and you could even have a Scottish Great Britain, which I've done before, and it's actually really fun, because then the culture type changes to Scottish Great Britain. Or you would have something like, you know, England expands, like, wins the 100-Year War, expands into France, and then Scotland takes over the English Isles, and then all of a sudden you have England in France and Scotland in England, and no one's in the same place anymore.
But what if this was really, like, geared on the storytelling and characters, sort of like Game of Thrones, right?
There are mods that do that kind of thing, yeah.
I know, but, like, they really hone in on a few specific people, and you get to really develop and learn about that person before you're even expanded to the world around them.
Oh,
and then it really matters what you think about that person. Your actions have a lot more consequence than just being a few map blips you move around.
Numbers, yeah.
That's why I lose that level of empathy, right? Is because I don't like to look at them as just units and numbers. I want to actually have a relationship with the consequences I'm making, which is why I care so much about characters in XCOM.
I agree. I agree, and that's something that's why I've sought out mods for CK2, so that they would have more of that aspect of it. Yes, I agree.
But
I would love that.
That's the bridge for me. If they could make that game, that's where I would start to really get interested, and maybe that would be enough to push me into the other stuff later.
It would be really hard to make, because
I know it would. I am not saying that it's even possible. I just think that as an aspiration, that might be a direction to start to head in.
Well, here's the other. This is something. So you likened it to that game. Something that I actually wanted to liken it to, because I was thinking about this when I was watching people play it and playing it myself, is something that's actually strangely similar. Like like CK2 and EU4 are incredibly complex games, right?
Obviously.
But if you boil them down, like super boil them down, so that there's like a molecule left.
It's Stratego.
No, it's I think it's actually a lot like agar.io.
Oh yeah, okay, I gotcha.
It's very similar to that.
That actually is fine. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Right? Those mechanics, the mechanics are fundamentally at least similar in that, you know, you start off small, or you could start off big, not in agar.io, but you can in CK2 or EU4 if you want.
And then
but
Hitler's dick eats you.
Yeah, but it's a lot more fun in those games to start off small and grow larger. But it works the same way. You end up, you know, you're in a tier of things that you could potentially take down or things that you can't take down, and you slowly grow and expand and snowball, and then eventually by the late game you're big enough that you're dealing with another giant target, and you have to figure out some kind of way to, through the game's mechanics and your strategizing, to finagle your way into defeating that target. You know, so it's fundamentally similar.
But the difference is one is dexterity and physics driven, where the other one is all political intrigue, and that's where I think the strength of the differentiation lies, is the human interactions and the weight of your consequences. Because just because you're big doesn't mean you're going to stay big, right? So you got to make the right proactive moves politically and know what those even should be, which is a whole nother level, because how are you even going to educate people on systems of government that don't even know about them, right? You're teaching school lessons, too.
On a fundamental level, well, yeah, that's true. But on a fundamental level, the agar.io is very similar. Because, you know, you do have to figure out, like, how am I going to beat this other guy that's as big as me, even though we're the two biggest people in the game, you know what I mean?
But instead of shooting a ball at him that causes a spore to bounce him into 100 pieces, you've got to learn how to deconstruct his church state, and
exactly.
It's not the same in that way.
Well, in CK2, like I said, it's a little bit more complex than EU4. Like, EU4 is a little bit more simple, because the government types in CK2 change the way that the game is played. On a more, I don't know how to describe it. They change it in a different way than EU4 does. Like, you kind of learn what this government type does, like an elective monarchy, or like you know, whatever, like a gavel kind, or all this kind of things. They kind of change how you play the game, not on a necessarily numbers level. Whereas EU4, while the government types and stuff like that, they change the way the game is played, but what they do is, like, you know, a feudal monarchy will give you a 20% boost of manpower, and, you know, a +5 discipline rating, whereas a despotic monarchy will give you, you know, less interest per annum and stuff like that, you know.
Right,
so
and when I hear that, my eyes immediately glaze over, because I don't even know what any of that means.
Yeah.
Like, because that's two levels disconnected from things I understand as far as game systems. Is, first of all, we're dealing with systems of government, which intrinsically are not transparent.
Yeah.
Then, you've got, what does that mean for the people that you're governing? And that translates into numbers that are statistics that you also don't know how relate to the rest of the world. So it's like, it's so many levels disconnected that I don't even know how to begin.
Well,
that's where you just watch someone play it.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. But what I mean is, like, when you change your government type in EU4, it's just a bonus or a detriment to some resource that you have in the game. So, I mean, there's, like, a bunch of different types of resources in the game. You know, you have, like, prestige, power projection, manpower, money, and, you know, all
But is that all it boils down to, is just a bunch of numbers going up and down? Or is there actually, like, human interaction that takes place as well?
In EU4, not as much, no. It's mostly just numbers changing around and percentages and stuff. And kind of, it's about min-maxing, mostly. Whereas CK2 is, while, yeah, fundamentally, similarly, it is sort of about numbers. It's a little bit more about how you can manipulate the AI people to do the things that you want them to do.
Right.
You know? So.
See, I'd like to get down on the ground and, like, interact with people and meet people and make associations based on the decisions I make in the world around me, and then see how that starts to fan out from my position.
Well, CK2 does do that. It's just a little bit superficial. Yeah. That's the only problem with it, is that it does all those things. I think my idea is impossible,
to be perfectly honest, so.
It's not that it's impossible, it's just it drives it further into the niche, is the thing. Because what it
No,
does...
if it's more human relatable, then it's away from the niche. Right? That's why Fable is popular.
Yes, if you're willing to sacrifice other elements of the gameplay, which I don't know if they would be willing to do that. That's the thing, like, because it's about the reason that they don't do more than that on a superficial level is because they do care, and I know this is another silly thing to say, but it does make sense if you play the games. They do care about pacing. Pacing does matter. So, like, when you have these non-superficial interactions, what'll happen is, you know, you're progressing through, like, say, a year or something, and every couple of months or every couple of weeks, the game will stop, and it'll be like, hey, this guy, you know, talks shit about your mother. How are you going to react to this? And then you go through a bunch of dialogue options and stuff like that, and it slows down the pacing of the game. And then it's hard for you to remember what your goals are and what you want to do and how you're going to accomplish those goals. So right now, the way that they treat it is it's like mostly superficial, where it's like, you know, you usually have like a binary choice of like, you know, this will lower your opinion with like this person, or this will raise your opinion with this guy, and
Clem will remember this.
Right, shit like that. So doing that kind of kills the pacing of the game, but that's why I do the mods, is because the mods kind of give you that more human element of it, and hopefully try to connect you more with the individual characters. Whenever I've done a Let's Play of any of those grand strategy games, I've actually consciously made an effort to try to make the characters important, even though they're not actually really that important. They're just kind of numbers. So, like, I would do things, like, on my EU4 Let's Play, I would do things of, like, my first explorer, I made sure to remember his name, and then when the first colony was formed, I named that colony after him, even though it doesn't really matter. He's just a collection of, like, 3 or 4 values and stuff. Like, none of that actually matters, but I'm striving to make that connection, even though the game doesn't really give me that option. So
it sounds like you kind of agree with my position. Then, I do. That would maybe make it a more accessible game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I don't know about accessible, but it would make it more interesting for me. Definitely.
I'm imagining Telltale's Game of Thrones on a massive level.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be... Well, if they made that kind of game, that would be amazing. But fucking impossible.
I know. That's why I said that. It might be just impossible.
Yeah. No, if they did that, that would be...
Like, imagine you could take the position of any of 500 peasants or whatever and build your world around that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all sorts of intrigue happening in the worlds that you've never even seen, but you can choose to explore to if you want and meet people there, and then your actions will then lead to where you end up later on in your life.
That would be fantastic. I would love that, but, you know...
That's like maybe in 50 years we can start talking about things like that.
Maybe. I mean,
if they're procedurally generating systems.
If they can make a procedural generation system that complex and advanced, that would be incredibly impressive. And yes, that's probably like 50 years away.
You need a system that understands how to tell stories that generate systems around those stories.
Without having to have human input making the stories that...
That's what I mean by procedural.
Yeah.
It's got to be generating systems generating other systems that understand how to systematically form.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jesus. It's like AI within the AI. It has to be a heuristics-based system.
Be fucking incredible, though.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Okay, I hope I get to live to see games like that. But
that's the kind of power that's like, if it goes left, it's Skynet. If it goes right, it's the most impressive video game.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like, hey, we designed a game where you could, you know, kind of like control the world and try to like go through history trying to control the world. But it turns out that we made a system so advanced that it just ended up controlling the actual world.
Actually destroyed the world.
So, sorry, but it would have been a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, we need John Connor at this point.
Also, we're at 2 hours and 15 minutes, so I feel like, you know.
Episode 200, man. Live large.
That's what I was thinking, is like, it's probably fitting that this is now the length of a Chris Nolan movie.
Are you worried when the VR sets come out that people are going to get so addicted to them that they'll never take them off? It'll be like Sword Art Online, but like
a Lieutenant Barkley system syndrome. Yeah, that would. I hope so. That'd be awesome.
I talked about that in Terraria the other day. And I was like, man, That's really a thing that's probably going to happen. There's going to be a ton of people that never want to leave.
I might be one of those people.
I said the same thing. I might too.
Yeah, like, I mean, if there is a virtual world that is better than this world, and I can get there by just flipping a switch, I would do it. Like, there is a reason that religion often talks about a magnificent, wonderful afterlife, but the one caveat is you can't kill yourself to get there, right? So, like, there's a reason that's the way they do it, because otherwise people would just be off on themselves if they really believed it, and just going like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll just go to fucking heaven. That sounds great. Spend less time potentially losing my chance at going there by just killing myself now. So, like, if they can create a virtual world in which it's just better than this one, and I can flip a switch and go there, yeah, I would do it.
Do you think that's something we need to worry about?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, people already die on MMOs sitting in the same place for too long.
Oh, I'm sure that kind of thing
80 times less immersive.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely sure that kind of thing is going to happen. But I think the prohibitive cost of trying to do something like that, and then on top of that, the fact that people actually do need to work to support the ability to be in those worlds, you know?
Well, but they just might stop going to their job.
Yeah, but then they're going to run out of power in their house, and they can't be in that world anymore, so, you know, there's going to be that aspect.
So they're going to be like cyber addicts.
Yeah, maybe.
What if No Man's Sky is like the catalyst?
If that game is like lives up to all of the potential hype that it could be,
and everyone just wants to live in No Man's Sky now because we can fly a rocket ship.
No Man's Skynet.
Harvest. Yeah, No Man's Skynet. There's a meme for the new generation.
There you go.
Skynet.
Yeah. As soon as No Man's Sky takes over the world. Yeah. No. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I hope that we have to deal with that problem, because if we do have to deal
in the other direction and make it all illegal or some bullshit.
Well, no, that's the thing. Is like, I hope that we have to deal with that problem, because that would mean that if we are dealing with that problem, that means that the virtual worlds are so expansive and immersive and awesome that people are getting addicted to it. I'm with
you. You don't have to say that, because people got addicted to EverQuest Online.
Yeah, alright, that's a good point, yeah.
It doesn't have to be that great. We just need something that is Skinner boxed enough that keeps us interested.
Yeah.
And we have never had visors that we literally strap onto our faces en masse before. You can't interact with those people at all. They're going to be sitting in a room flailing about with, well, I don't know what they'll be doing, but they'll be looking around at least.
Yeah.
And people will be poking them, and they'll be like, I don't care, go away. And then they keep poking them, just go away. How long will people put up with that?
I don't know, man.
There'll be a lot of broken headsets, I have a feeling. Spouses being upset, and kids being upset at their parents, or parents being upset at their kids, grabbing them off their heads and throwing them at the wall.
Spouses will definitely be upset. But imagine this. Imagine a game in VR where an old couple gets to recreate themselves when they were young and fuck each other in the virtual world.
Yeah, that sounds sweet as hell.
Right?
Kind of touching, even.
It is
also a little bit sad.
Yeah, it's all of those things, but also awesome. The underlying elements.
You know, all the feelings you feel in the first 5 minutes of the movie Up, you can experience with virtual reality.
Yeah. The possibilities are limitless, yet it could be a fad. It could just end up being a fad. I really hope it doesn't, but...
I think even if it is a fad, though, the ultimate trajectory of human consciousness will put us back on that track later.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just
whether it's not through a visor, maybe that's yet to be decided, but the whole alternate reality through digital means thing is going to be a thing no matter what we do.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Unless we wipe it all out with, like, an EMP bomb somehow, or I don't know, whatever. If we destroy all the infrastructure, then maybe it's just further away.
It could end wars.
But will it?
I don't know.
Will it decide them with goofball goals? Because I've advocated that for years.
That would be really cool if what they decided to do, like a way that they would... there's actually a Star Trek Original Series episode about this.
They fight each other in Call of Duty.
Yeah, no. Essentially what they do in that in the episode is how war, like they travel to some planet, and what happened on that planet is they spent like 100 years in this really, really grueling war, and it destroyed all the infrastructure all over the planet. So what they decided to do is, because they still couldn't agree with each other, they decided to continue having their wars, but what they simulated the strikes and stuff. So they would simulate missile strikes on places, on cities and stuff like that, and advancing armies and shit like that. And it's like the global movement that they're all down to follow this system. But the caveat being, and because it's a Star Trek episode, there has to be some, is that if there is a simulated strike in, say, like New York City, and like a nuke manages to go off in New York City in the simulation, then everyone in New York City, because everyone agreed to this system, everyone in New York City has to go to these extermination chambers because they've been simulated to be killed, but the infrastructure will still remain. So, and they all agree to do it. They all agree to just go into these disintegration chambers and die.
What? For
the betterment of their society.
I thought the point of simulating it was that people didn't have to die.
Well, that's, yeah, right, that's the thing.
So what the fuck's the point of simulating it then?
So that the infrastructure isn't destroyed.
Who cares?
Well, yeah.
If there's no people to live in it.
Well, that's the thing, is that, you know, in the 60s and 70s, everybody was talking about, you know, people developing a neutron bomb, and that's essentially what that episode is about. It's about a neutron bomb kind of thing, where how terrible it would be if someone developed something like that, because the theory behind a neutron bomb is it would just be a bomb that you could drop in a city, it would kill all the people, but it would leave all the infrastructure intact, so that the conquering nation or people would just move into the city and they wouldn't have to worry about anything. Like, they wouldn't have to rebuild their society or anything like that.
Having to go to a disintegration chamber is so much more horrific than actually getting hit with a bomb.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the point of the episode, yeah. So, that's the,
They could have just not had to do that.
And that's largely what Kirk tries to convey to them. But...
Just keep the war going however long you fucking want, but you don't have to kill each other.
Yeah, yeah. But, so, like, imagine that. Imagine if we had that kind of society, except minus the disintegration chambers. But, you know, like...
Well, but I think the ultimate reality is they want to physically inhabit this space, which you can't simulate.
Well, you could have people just reap the rewards of that space. Like, if Russia, like, simulatedly takes over, you know, New York, then they get to reap all of the taxes and rewards of that place.
So we'll play along, but that does break the economy completely.
Yeah, no, it does.
So,
no,
what?
There's no logical way to go about it.
Yeah, I don't think this system really works.
Because the other thing that would happen if we tried to do something like that is, like, the USA would lose in the simulation battle, and Russia would take over New York, and then the USA would
just
be
hack
like...
the simulation.
Well, no, they would just be like, all right, I mean, we agreed to do this, but we're just not gonna do it. Yeah, we're just not gonna do that. Like, you could come over here and fight us if you want for it, but... And
yeah, good simulation. That was fun.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, so... But, yeah, you know.
Can't they just wear VR headsets that make it look like they're in New York?
Yeah, well, hey, that's something that could be really cool. Like, remember how, like, in awe we were of like, Google Maps when that first came out? And it was like, wow, that's so cool. And, like, Google Earth, how cool Google Earth was. You could, like, walk around the streets and stuff. Imagine that with VR, like, a really comprehensive system where it, like, really does, like, photograph everything in the city, and you get to just, you know, even if you don't live in New York City, you get to just walk around in the streets and, you know, maybe even add some AI so you can interact with the people and put a little game on top of it.
Everybody's got their VR headset / Google goggles on, and they're all walking around in New York City. You can tap into any of their feeds at any point, so you can look out of their eyes. And you can just walk down any street because there's someone on that street that you can take over their eyes.
Yeah. Or porn.
Exactly.
Yeah. You POV porn.
These people are fucking right now. Who do you want to
well, like, imagine VR with like POV porn, because POV porn has been, you know, getting popular in a big way over the past, like, year or two or three. And POV porn would be a lot better if the guy just had a panoramic camera strapped to his head, and, you know, you could just put on your VR headset and look around at whatever you want.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, getting laid is better. But
No, yeah, obviously. But it'll pretty much always be better until we have perfect sex robots, so. Which is why I said, as soon as the perfect sex robot comes out, that's the end of the world. It's over.
it's gonna be a weird time.
I hope it's my lifetime.
You want the world to end during your life?
No, I just want a perfect sex robot.
You just have like a normal human relationship.
That's so much more
Sorry,
work.
I don't mean to be so judgmental, Rob. If you're into that, you're into that. I'm not gonna judge you for it.
But a perfect simulation of a human is so much better. Maybe it's because I hate
It
people.
devalues the humans, though.
Well, exactly, yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah, but I hate people. Like, I'm a big misanthrope, so...
I'm not a huge fan of people either, but I don't know. I always have seen my significant other as a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to replace her with a robot.
I mean, currently, I agree with you. But most of the rest of my life, I felt like, you know what?
You're saying shit goes down, you don't have that connection anymore, it's time to get with the robot and never look back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't be into that still. I would probably want to try it, but like then it's a slippery slope,
but
quite
a perfect
literally.
sex robot would... What I mean by a perfect sex robot is it would perfectly emulate the experience of interacting with a human. Like, it would have its own emotions, whether it be fake or not. It would have its own wants and needs, and you would be able to support them like a regular human being. Except, if you don't like interacting with it today, you could just turn that human off.
Yeah, I don't want to have that power over someone else, even if they're simulated.
I would have like a whole apartment building filled with those virtual people that I can interact with, like however I want. And some would be nice to me, and some would be mean to me, and I can interact my power fantasy of like, oh, this guy's a dick.
Okay, so you want to be God then?
Yeah, exactly. I just basically want to be God. Yeah, that's the overall aspect of it.
I think part of the feeling that I get of enjoying life out of this the relationship element is the two of you come together and you both have your own personalities and you learn to work with each other and build something greater than both of you individually.
Yes.
And you can't do that with a robot.
That's true. But you can have sex with the robot whenever you want.
Yeah. You can also have sex with your hand whenever you want.
Yeah, that's true, but that's not as good as, sex with a person.
Yeah.
I think that's the main, the unifying struggle of humanity is that for both sexes, sex with your hand will always be not as good as sex with another person.
But isn't that the drive that makes us able to move forward?
Well, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Like,
it's the
almost by definition, that's the one thing.
It's the unifying force. That's what I'm talking about. Like, and if you eliminate that force, that is like, well, if sex with this robot is just as good as sex with another person, I don't have to put nearly as much effort towards a lot of things, aspects of my life.
But what you're talking about isn't really just the sex, though. It's the whole other part around the sex. Because sex isn't just a physical activity, although it can be. There's a lot of emotional baggage that comes along with that. There's a lot of passion. There's building up to it. There's the lust element. And if you don't have a physical and emotional connection with the robot, it's not the same as a human, whether or not you want it to be.
Yeah, but what if it simulates that physical and emotional connection?
I don't want it to.
This is basically a Black Mirror episode, by the way.
I'm sure it is.
There actually is an episode that's basically about this, and they kind of... The Black Mirror episode kind of falls on where you're falling on it, where it seems real, but it's not really real. And
it's just hollow.
Yes. It totally will be. And I totally agree with you. But have you not seen Black Mirror, by the way?
I've watched the one episode. We watched it together.
Oh, dude.
The one with the guy in a box with the porn playing on all the walls.
Dude, you gotta watch more.
It was too depressing. I didn't want to see any more of it.
Oh, okay. Well, the episode that I'm talking about is even more depressing than
Lynn's been telling me to watch it too, and it's like, I want to watch it, but I don't have enough mental fortitude to get through all the negativity in it. It's really depressing, and it's really well done, so it's easy to project how depressing it is.
Yeah, it's really, really depressing. A lot of the episodes are really... They will fuck you up for days. So, yeah.
I mean, watch it if you're up for that.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's really, really good.
Just got enough other shit to deal with in my life that I don't want to add to it.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Well, now we're at 2 hours and a half, so we're getting into, like, Spartacus territory here. I feel like this is probably a good place to end.
Are we Braveheart yet?
I don't know.
2 VHSs, right? That was like 3 hours and something.
I think Braveheart is 3 hours, yeah.
3 hours and something.
Yeah, so we're 3 hours and 2 minutes.
Come on, if we can't take down Mel Gibson's epic, what are we even worth?
Oh, believe me, I can talk more. I didn't really want to mention this, but within those 2.5 hours, I have had an increasing desire and urge to shit.
Yeah.
So
that's usually where this ends.
Yeah, it's
Rob can't go 2 hours without shitting.
I really can't. Actually, sometimes I go several days without shitting. I've heard it's very unhealthy.
Is it?
Apparently.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe you're keeping shit inside your body too long. You have too much...
Is it like doing stuff to your insides?
I don't know.
Like if your body doesn't push it out, then it's just kind of like there, right? That's where it goes.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I am not a doctor.
Maybe it just like backs up the rest of the process, you know? Like the stuff that would normally have gotten out of your stomach by now is now going.
Oh, you're saying the turd is actually poking back up into your stomach through your small intestine.
Well, not exactly that, but I mean, like, you know, it's like when you're like rubber banding on a highway. If the one guy in front decides to, well, it's like, you know, if a guy like a mile down the road in traffic decides to just pump the brakes for a second,
then everybody's got to slow, yeah.
Yeah, domino effect slows down everything else, and maybe that's why it's bad.
Apparently, if we all kept a certain distance between each other driving, we would never have to slow down.
Yes, that is true, mathematically. Rubber banding only happens because it's actually game theory as well.
It's because Nintendo programmed the AI to make sure that you always have an optimal experience, whether you're good or bad.
But it's like the basic game theory thing where it's like if everyone chooses B, then everyone gets out ahead. But if only a few people decide to choose A, it fucks up not only all the Bs, but those certain As get to be slightly more ahead than the people who choose B.
Right.
So, it's like a rubber banding. That's the rubber banding thing. Like, it only takes that one asshole to decide to slow down and look at the car wreck on the side of the road, and then he just fucks it up for everybody like 10 miles back.
So the lesson is be yourself.
Right, exactly, yeah. Yeah, just be the dick. Yeah, just slow down on this. Someone else is gonna do it.
So why not you?
That's the whole game theory thing, yeah. That's where that whole thing comes from, is like
you're fucked from the very equation.
Exactly. It only takes one person to fuck it up for everybody.
Nobody even has to. It's just the idea that someone could fuck it up that has already fucked it up.
Well, but that's the thing, right? It's like in a big enough group, it only takes one person to fuck it up for everybody else. So why not let that be you? Because someone else is going to be you anyway.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah. So someone else is going to. So you might as well choose A and get out ahead.
It's like if you've got a big group of people like at a music festival and there's a trash can and everybody wants to throw their trash away in the trash can, but a bunch of people miss. And eventually they realize, hey, look, there's all this trash on the ground. Like, let's just throw trash on the ground, right? You'll be the one that starts that domino effect, and eventually everything is in everywhere but the trash can.
That is also that very same premise in the game theory thing.
Mine is just like a slightly broken version of it.
There's actually a really good game theory class on YouTube for Harvard's open coursework. By the way,
okay,
I haven't mentioned this for a while, but
I went to Harvard. No, I didn't.
No, in case anybody didn't know, you can basically go to Harvard. You don't have to pay. Well, yeah, basically. Some of them are better than others. Like, some of the courses, if you actually sign up for there's like different levels of effort that you can decide to put in on your own. Like, certain courses are actually taught at Harvard every semester, and they record them, they film them, and they put them up on the internet. And some of them, the teacher and the TAs and stuff will actually give you the tests and administer them online, and they will read your homework and grade you on it and give you a grade. They just won't give you any kind of diploma or anything. So you can do those classes, or the rest of the open coursework is just a video of every class in that particular class. So I've done that with a couple of classes at Harvard and Yale too. Actually, one of them was game theory. Game theory is really interesting. That's why I brought it up.
So then it begs the question: are people going to Harvard because they actually want the education, or are they only going because they want the credibility?
I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think there's anything wrong with it being both, but Nick, I'm gonna explode out of my anus right now, so thanks for watching, everybody. Bye!
Right. Thanks for being here for all 2.5 hours. I hope you enjoy yourself. We'll see you later. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody! This is Alpaca Patrol signing out. Peace, fools.